Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Second day in pads today for the Titans. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
And I will say, the entire start of the show changed after practice ended today. And the reason being, Jeffrey Simmons spoke to the media. I said at the end of the show yesterday, I go, how are the Titans going to handle this? And I said, if I was Rand Carthon, I'd call Jeffrey Simmons into the office and I would say, you've got two choices. Either you get up in front of the media and you address this, or I will get up in front of the media and I will address it, and we will be talking about having a different captain. So you pick. So after practice was over today, Jeffrey Simmons chatted with a PR member and then got in front of the local media scrum. Probably should have done this at the podium, in my opinion, but I understand why he didn't. And he got in front of the local media scrum and he delivered an apology for, Ian, how long do you think the whole thing is? Like 3 minutes?
The
4 minutes?
The whole clip, the whole Simmons thing?
Yeah, the whole Simmons thing was
something
probably
like that. Yeah.
3 minutes. And so he talks for about 3 minutes, but it really, this is the gist of it. And then he kind of just kept repeating himself over and over again. Here's what Jeffrey Simmons said today.
Well, before y'all get started, we all know what happened yesterday. A lot of y'all have been here since I've been here, so y'all know me. That's not who I am. That's not who I want to be seen as. I talked to Buck. We have an understanding. I have an understanding where we're coming from. I have an understanding where he's coming from. He have a job. I have a job. At the end of the day, I take full accountability of my actions on the field. I mean, that'll never happen again with me. Like I said, I always talk about that switch, when to turn it on, when to turn it off. I was kind of still had it on coming off the field, of course, with the way practice went. But that, like I said, that's not me. It'll never happen again. And to all you guys, like I said, I apologize. And not because it's hit social media, but it's because who I am. That's not my character. And I think from here on out, like I said, from that point, like I said, I spoke on about it. I'm ready to move forward. Any football questions, I'm here to answer.
Okay. So he said that. And then again, that was basically every question he answered some of them differently, but for the most part, it was kind of the same, right? You know, that's not who I am. I'm ready to move forward, so on and so forth. I have different feelings about what Jeffrey Simmons did today. I have a positive feeling and I have a negative feeling. We're going to start with the positive. At least he did it. At least he did it. I was afraid that the Titans were going to sweep this under the rug. I was honestly a little disappointed in Brian Callahan today that he stuck Denard Wilson out there to be the one to talk about this first thing in the morning at 8 a.m. Whose team is it? So I was disappointed by that, but not surprised. We talked all amongst ourselves on the sidelines during practice today about, you think Simmons is going to talk about this? Of course not. And so when I saw Simmons walking over, I thought to myself, oh my God, he's going to actually talk. And he did. And he apologized. And he didn't point a finger at Buck. And he didn't say it was his fault and it's your fault. And it's, now he didn't, there were some messages inside of that, again, we'll discuss, but at least they did it. And I wouldn't say I feel bad for Simmons. He brought this upon himself. But the sad part about this is most people are going to see the viral video of Simmons going nuts on Buck, and that's what they're going to remember. And Floyd used to always talk about it when he was GM, that your reputation around the league matters. And that's going to be Simmons' reputation. Most people across the country who saw that video yesterday probably did not hear that apology. Well, I heard it, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that Jeffrey Simmons, who I think we can all admit is a little sensitive, admitted that he was wrong. The other thing about this is a new team. And I've been covering the Titans now for 10 years. And of the 10 years I've been doing this is the newest, freshest, from scratch football team they've had. Even Mike Mularkey's first season in 2016, Mike Mularkey had been the interim coach at the end of 2015. This wasn't like it was a new guy we were getting to learn the way that we're getting to learn a new guy in Brian Callahan. That team had Jarrell Casey. That team had Delaney Walker. And Marcus Mariota had been the starting quarterback the year before. So in my experience of doing this is the most Bear Titans team that I've ever covered. This might be, again, the most new Titans team since 2014, 2006. It's a new team, and we don't know who the leaders on this team are going to be. Sure, DeAndre Hopkins is here, and he could qualify as a leader. Amani Hooker's here. Will Levis, they say, is a leader, but I think we're all hoping, and they are too, that he ascends into that leadership position. But the one guy who isn't new in all of this is Simmons. He's the one guy. When you go to the stadium on Sunday this season, the only jersey that people didn't have to go out and buy for this season was the Simmons jerseys they've already owned. So he's the one guy in that room that's got some skins on the wall for the Titans. And he should be the leader of the team. The way Jarrell Casey was the leader of the team, the way Delaney Walker was the leader of the team, that should be Simmons. Had Simmons not spoken today, had he not apologized, I'd have written him off as a leader forever. I'd have said, I don't ever want to hear leadership and this guy's name mentioned in the same sentence. So today was the first step in building his reputation as a star and a leader on this team. Today was the first day in building that back up. To me, and again, I already had my issues with Simmons as far as leadership was concerned and sensitivity and thick skin and all that. I already had my issues going into yesterday. It just confirmed it. But he blew the whole stack for me. So now he's going to have to earn it back little by little, day by day. Leadership is not something that you just wake up and say, okay, today I'm going to be a leader. It didn't just happen overnight for Derrick Henry. Didn't happen overnight for Ryan Tannehill. And this is the first opportunity that Jeffrey Simmons has had on this team to be out of the shadow of Henry, Tannehill, and Kevin Byard. Right now, it's his opportunity. This is his opportunity because there isn't somebody on this team that just screams, that guy is the leader of that team. I even heard D. May say in the last segment, before they got off the air, he was like, look, man, just because you put your hand in the middle and say team on three does not mean you're the leader. And so where I sit today, I don't count Jeffrey Simmons as a leader. But he's going to build it back up, or at least he has the opportunity to do so. Had he not done that today, had he not gotten in front of the cameras, which again, most of us expected they weren't going to do, which I think maybe says something more about the Titans, but had he not done that, I would have written him off as a leader forever, and that would have called into some serious questions about the leadership of the organization, and I'm not talking about the players, but he did talk. So it's the first step in the right direction. You cannot unring that bell. And what he did yesterday was embarrassing. It embarrassed the entire organization. So as somebody who roots for this team, even though I know a lot of you out there seem to think that I don't, I do. As somebody who roots for this team, as somebody who wants to believe in this football team, which I do, I want to believe in them. I'm not saying I do believe that this team this year is a good football team, but I want to believe in the Titans. I want to believe that they can be a contender. I want to believe that at some point in the future, the Super Bowl is in front of us. At least today, there was some accountability. Because yesterday was so incredibly embarrassing. It was such a bad look for Simmons, and it was such a bad look for the team. And again, while most people around the country will only see the video, they'll see the action, they won't see the reaction. I'm glad somebody today was accountable. He wasn't that accountable. I didn't really want to talk about it. But he did get up there, tail between his legs, and he did say he screwed up. And this organization has not done a lot of that lately. So at least I appreciate the effort. Now, there's another side of this that I don't like. That makes it kind of seem, at least, I wouldn't say a little insincere, but maybe like a little PR 101 for Simmons. A little free advice. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Very fascinated, by the way, about what Chris Sanders at the end of the hour, what he will have to say about this, because you know Chris has got an opinion. You want to know what I think it might be, Ian?
I think he has two options.
Two options. Get better or get bitter. Let's talk about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. August starts tomorrow. And when August starts, for a lot of people, that means summer will be over. The beginning of August, when I was a kid, was very depressing because it meant school was coming back. And even though the kids are headed back to school, you can leave the homework to Hiller. This month, enjoy back-to-school savings. And I'm saying this month, August, enjoy back-to-school savings with offers like a $99 drain cleaning, $500 off high-efficiency HVAC systems, $500 off new tankless water heaters, $1,000 off whole home generators. Visit happyhiller.com for more details. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
You seem very angry with us in general lately. What's the root of that? What could we do?
I just said that's not me. We're gonna move forward from that. I'm ready to focus on football. I just want to win. Like I said, I'm not with all the social media stuff. I got a text message even from a PR lady just even delete social media while I'm in camp. Because like I said, I don't want to get the text message. Told my family, don't send it to me no more. None of that. But like I said, I'm not angry at you guys. I don't have nothing against you guys. You guys have a job. I have a job. We know you guys going to critique us. I mean, we're not going to like it. And like I told earlier, like, we also have a right to speak our opinion as well, just like you guys. So I'm not angry with no one. Like I said, some of the stuff, I just don't like what some of the stuff be said. That's my opinion. So like I said, I'm just ready to move on from that. Like I said, yesterday is unacceptable, and we came back to practice today. I had a great day.
In general, do you need to pay less attention to social media?
I'm focused on football.
I'm just moving on. I'm just focused on football. That was Jeffrey Simmons. So at least he spoke. Had he not spoke today, had he not spoken to the media, I would have been ranting and raving, and honestly, I wouldn't have been just disappointed at Jeff. I'd have been disappointed at the organization. At the very top of it, I would have been disappointed. Now, nobody gets in trouble for something they haven't done, and people definitely don't get in trouble for things that they don't do. And in this case, he did speak. So you got to give him credit. Now, the one thing, I got to give Jeffrey Simmons some PR advice here. There's actually two things, but the first is PR advice. The second is the reality of the situation, what he thinks it is, and what I know it is. The first is the PR advice. When you screw up and you have to be accountable for it, you have to take questions. And Simmons didn't want to do that. When he first got there, he talked about, I'm sorry, I talked to Buck. That's not who I am. You guys know me. I want to move past it. And now I'll take any football questions. No. If you're going to be accountable, which again, this is about leadership. Nobody watched Simmons yesterday act like a total clown and thought to themselves, maybe he's not a good defensive tackle. Nobody thought about that. They thought he might be unhinged. They thought that he might not be a good leader. They thought that he might be a fraud, but they didn't think that he's not a good football player. He's a good football player. So when you have the mea culpa press conference, you actually have to take questions. When you are constantly bitching about the local media, which Simmons is, I'm sorry. Whether it's the Buck thing, whether it's the Twitter thing, whether it's going on the other radio station and talking about me thing, whatever, it doesn't matter. When you are constantly mad at the local media and everybody gives you opportunities to say something and you say no every time, well, at some point, it's like, okay, well, then what's the point of this? It comes off as insincere. It comes off as I am coming to talk to the media about what I did wrong yesterday, and I am sorry. And I know there's been a lot of drama, but that's not me. I want to put the team first. Now I have to endure 5 minutes of your questions, and this is your opportunity to ask. Now, if somebody asked him about it 2 weeks from now, he could say, hey, I already talked about that. But this is the time that you have to answer the questions. Years ago, as a radio host in Boston, he's probably the most talented and successful guy in the entire country. His name is Michael Felger. Got in a lot of trouble. Roy Halladay, the pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies Hall of Fame, passed away in a plane crash, and Felger mocked it pretty hard and almost lost his job over it. And again, he's, I think, unequivocally the best radio host in the country. And he almost lost his job. And you know what he did? The next day, they didn't fire him. They released a statement saying they don't agree with it. They didn't fire him. They didn't suspend him. They didn't dock his pay. He got on the air and he took calls for 4 hours and said, hey, if this is the day that you want to air out your frustration, if you want to read me the riot act, if you want to spank me on the bottom, today is the day to do it. After that, they moved on. But Simmons sits in front of the media and talks about, I'm sorry, I talked to Buck. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Well, that's not how this works. And Simmons is right. He has a place to voice his frustration. You know, the cut we played at the end there where he was like, some things I don't completely agree with. And, I feel like I should be allowed to. You should. So when I ask you in a press conference about it, you can answer it. When they ask you today about it, you can answer it. So just a little PR advice. If you're going to have the accountability press conference, you need to take questions for the actions that you are trying to be accountable for. It's as simple as that. In fact, I'm not even sure he really understands what the job of the media is, but that's his business, not mine. The second thing is the leadership stuff. Now, I said when he and Arden Key started crapping their pants over what the local media was saying, again, this is Nashville, Tennessee. This is not New York. This is not Chicago. This is not Boston, where once again, radio hosts have to spend whole days apologizing because they make fun of tragic death. We don't do that here. We are a bottom third NFL city in terms of size. I'm not saying that Titan fans are bad fans, but the amount of fans compared to, say, the Cleveland Browns, it's not even close. If you can't cut it in Nashville, like you think you can handle Philadelphia? Think you can handle Chicago? But again, I said when they couldn't take it, I said, look, it's not leadership. If you can't deal with what everybody on the outside's saying and either metabolize it to make you good or completely block it out, you're not a very good leader. You think things like that ever bothered Derrick Henry? Of course not. But Derrick Henry went about his business. You think, again, Derrick kept saying on the midday show, Eddie George and Steve McNair never acted like that. But Simmons constantly wants to tell everybody, and he did today in his press conference, that he is the leader. I am the leader. Here's an example of that.
Most definitely. We talked about everyone know I'm a leader on the team, and I don't want none of my teammates saying that. And like I said, that's not who I am. You know, I look at myself first because being a leader, you have to point the finger to yourself first. And like I said, me and Buck talk. We have an understanding. And like I said, I told him where I was coming from. He told me where he was coming from. Like I said, ready to move on from.
Being the leader, as the leader, I'm the leader. That's not really how leadership works. You know, when the Patriots won their first 3 Super Bowls, Tom Brady wasn't the leader of that team. Willie McGinnis, Teddy Bruschi, Mike Vrabel, those guys were the leaders of that team. Now, Brady became the leader, and when they won the second 3 Super Bowls, you bet your tush Tom Brady was the leader of that team. But it wasn't just like, okay, Tom, you're the leader. Okay, Johnny, you're the leader. The last time the Titans tried that, where they just pointed at somebody and said, you're the leader, Ken Whisenhunt did it with Taylor Lewan. And Mike Mularkey, as the tight ends coach, thought it was such bullcrap that he stripped the captaincy patch from him, publicly embarrassing him. And I think we all know Taylor's a doer, not a leader. And I was listening to D-Mace on the drive back from practice, and even D-Mace kind of pointed this out of like, whoa, now. I'm not sure I can say you're the leader of the team. Here's what Derrick said today.
You address it, but you don't get into the back and forth verbal, sparring with them. You say what you need to say in a respectful manner, and hopefully they do the same, and you move on. What gets you is when you linger around and you start continuing to throw words out there, because you're going to throw words out there that you wish you wouldn't have. And I'm sure he threw some words out there yesterday that he wished he could have had back, because there were kids waiting there for your autograph or whoever's autograph, but they're in earshot of what you're saying. So it's not the end of the world. You're not a bad person. I didn't say he was a bad person yesterday. I just believe it was a moment. And he can't have a moment like that when you are considered, I'm going to just say, one of the leaders, because until you prove that you can consistently not do what you did yesterday, I will consider you the leader. Right now, you are one of the leaders. You want to be the leader. You haven't reached that pinnacle of being the leader yet. You can get there, but yesterday was a setback.
I think he would know. So when I hear Simmons talk about, I'm the leader, I'm like, I'm not sure you are. And if you are, this team's in some deep doo-doo. So maybe bring that down a notch. I don't want to hear the I'm the leader talk from the guy who looks at his cell phone and then can't stop himself from going outside the locker room, making an ass out of himself, and then the next day being like, well, it's hard. I'm trying hard out here on the practice field, and I can't just turn it off. I'm like, so what are you, like in a game? You come off the sidelines, you're trying your hardest, you're fully, you fully invested in all the adrenaline, and you're going out there trying to kill a quarterback, and you come back to the sideline and you tackle the lady on the sideline who's working security to keep fans from running on the field? Of course not. Yeah, you can turn it off. That's a lame excuse. So I don't want to hear all this I'm the leader talk. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. I did ask Simmons a question, and you can't hear it in the audio, but his reaction, it did make me laugh. It made me laugh a lot. We'll touch on that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025. Chris Sanders later this hour. His take on all of this. Will they get better? Will they get bitter? We shall see. 615-737-1025. The Game Summer Ticket Tour is presented by Green River Whiskey and has 2 more stops. Join Joe Dubin at Burrow Bourbon and Brews at 124 North Maple Street in Murfreesboro tomorrow from 4 to 6. We'll have your chance to win free tickets to upcoming concerts in Nashville, including Bush, Train, Dierks Bentley, and more. Also, get signed up for the grand prize, tickets to a Preds home game, Sounds game, and to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. For more details, visit theGameNational.com/tour. Green River Distilling Company, Owensboro, Kentucky. Alcohol by volume varies by product. Please drink responsibly. Did you talk to Amy yesterday about what happened?
Huh?
Did you talk to Amy yesterday about what happened?
No, I think I talked to my people in the locker room. I talked to the people who I needed to talk to. I didn't talk to Miss Amy about it. I know like I said, I addressed it. We're moving on from it.
That was Jeffrey Simmons today, and that's the only question I had. Talk to Amy about it? And he's like, did I talk to who about it? Did I talk? Amy, the woman that pays you $20 million a year? Did you talk to her about it? Oh, no. Why would I do that? And the look he gave me, I told Joe, I was like, my favorite part of that whole thing. He looked at me when I asked it like, what the hell? Why the hell would I talk to the owner? I'm like, well, you're the highest paid player on the team. You're supposedly the leader of the team, though we have serious doubts about your leadership. But as of right now, you are the leader of the team. And she owns it, and you embarrassed it. And you didn't just embarrass it like, oh, yeah, you know, people around town are talking about it. No. I did a search yesterday. I wanted to see, like, where all this was getting to. TMZ, Fox News, like, it's all over the place. And I got to tell you, if I was the highest paid player, if I was the star of the team, I want to have a conversation with the owner. You know, even here at our radio station, I've got a boss. My immediate supervisor is Chase. He's the program director. Above him is our general manager, Sean. And I talk with him. But I've been here for almost 10 years. About 9.5 years I've been here. Gosh, time flies. 9.5 years. And if there was something serious, Bud Walters, who owns the stations, who I know, he wants to hire people, let them do their jobs. And when it comes to, you know, again, managing me, he wants the people that manage me to manage me. But if there was something where I embarrassed the entire radio station, I'd want to talk to Bud about it, because I'd want him to know, hey, man, I know I embarrassed you yesterday. And I just laughed about that. One texter says, goodness, I can't listen anymore. You are not a good person, Jared Stillman. What have I said that's not? Ian, help me out here. What have I said that is revealing of my character today?
I don't know. Nothing really stands out as far as revealing to your character. I guess you've been a little harsh on Jeffrey.
I was harsh on Jeffrey coming into this. Last time I checked, when we anoint people king of the world, oh, he's the leader, he's the best player, he's the star, give him the money. We expect him to act like it. Sorry. One texter says it's kind of funny how many times Simmons used the word leader when talking about himself. Good leaders don't have to self-proclaim themselves as a leader. When something happens, they just naturally do the right thing. So here's what I would say about like how I view leadership. If you are a leader, you know it. And if you are a leader, that's something that is in addition to what you already do, but at the same time, and this is how I view leaders. Like, I'm not talking about how I would handle whatever, but I'm just saying like how I think there is an expectation level when somebody is going to lead that they realize they have to be more accountable. And I'll give you an example. The first day of training camp, Ian, do you remember whose car was parked in the facility first on the first day of training camp?
Levis.
Will Levis. And the team photographer got a picture and they put it on social media, and everybody on Twitter, you know, the fans, oh, well, that's my quarterback. He's the first guy there, 4 a.m. in the morning on the day of training camp. He's the guy. You think Levis wanted to wake up at 3:30 on the day of training? You think Levis, because Levis isn't old enough to have to pee in the middle of the night yet, but you think Levis just couldn't keep it. He was so excited, he couldn't keep it in, so he had to go wake up and get to the facility. No. Will Levis knew, hey, I'm QB1 now. And I'm not going to talk about being QB1, but I'm going to show him how serious I take being QB1. And he was the first person to build it. And it's actions like that every day that make you a leader. Not just saying, I'm the leader. Doesn't work like that. Derrick Henry's attitude. That's the consistency. That's what made guys want to be like Derrick Henry. And then the results follow. I mean, I don't think it's that complicated, but who knows? Mike from PA says, quote, I talked to the people I needed to. That tells me how he views the owner. I think, again, like Simmons, he doesn't understand. Probably because he's not a leader, but we'll give him an opportunity to see if he can, right the wrongs here and become one. But the owner is the most important person in the building. We all look at, who runs the team, who's in charge, and we think coach and general manager. But I've always talked about when it comes to guys like Derrick Henry or it comes to quarterback decisions, the owner is the one in charge. I've heard people that said, when watching this Giants in-season Hard Knocks, and John Mara, the owner of the Giants, is walking into Joe Shane, the general manager's office, and he's asking questions like, I don't know about Saquon. What are we going to do about Saquon? I want Saquon back. I'm going to have a hard time sleeping if Saquon goes to the Eagles. I saw that, and I'm like, you need to go re-sign Saquon Barkley. He's telling you, we need to re-sign Saquon Barkley. Now, Joe Shane's a dope, and he didn't do it. But the owner is the one who is in charge. The owner is the most important person in the building all the time. And Floyd told me that early in my tenure that everybody in the NFL knows it, including Bill Belichick. And he's like, I talked to who I needed to talk to. I talked to who I needed to talk to. One texter in the text line's like pretty sensitive, I guess, about how they're not getting the auto response from the Wilson County Hyundai thing. It's like, am I blocked from texting the text line? No, texter. Ben in Cumberland City, you are not blocked from texting the text line. It'll be okay. Oh, my goodness gracious. Dylan says, I kind of feel like since Simmons didn't get thrown out of practice yesterday, that other players are going to feel like they can get away with that stuff too. And if they get thrown out, then they will complain about the superstar players getting special treatment. Murray swung at Wiley today. This team seems to have no discipline, and I think it's because they have a happy-go-lucky head coach. So I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about Murray swinging at Wiley. I saw them getting into it, and I saw DeAndre kind of, I'm not going to say DeAndre broke it up, but DeAndre positioned his body in between. So I can't tell you that he swung at him today at practice. But Kenneth Murray was talking the talk, which honestly, just go play. Just go prove you're not a bust. And I understand it's football and guys are going to talk trash. But if I was a bust and Kenneth Murray's a bust, drafted by the Chargers, fifth-year option, not picked up, they didn't re-sign him. I guess, I don't know if that technically counts as a bust. I guess Corey Davis was kind of the same way. And I guess technically Jack Conklin was the same way, though the Titans tried to re-sign him. So I wouldn't say Conklin was a bust, but kind of feel like Murray's a bust in LA. Just go prove that you're not a bust. Just go play. The other stuff, I'm not worried about. And I'm not worried right now about the Titans. I'm not worried about them having a discipline problem. And I said this when I was talking about Brian Callahan yesterday, and I would have thrown Simmons out of practice. It's Callahan's prerogative to not throw Simmons out of practice. I don't know. It doesn't sound like Sean McVay did anything to Aaron Donald when he took his helmet off and smacked a guy in the head with it, which I didn't like. And then the NFL came out and said, we don't manage practice. We manage the games. Okay. Aaron Donald could have killed somebody out there, but that's, again, their issue. So maybe he looks at it the same way. Says, oh, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And maybe he's right. Well, that's the way he parents his child. I might parent my child differently. I don't know who's right. But I would have thrown him out there. Now, if they'd had a couple of fights today, then we would have been talking about the coach. But I really didn't see any scuffles today. Again, I saw Murray talking trash to Wiley. I saw DeAndre get in the middle of it. To me, I wouldn't have even thought about it if I didn't see the texter say into the text line, hey, did Murray swung at Wiley today? Maybe they kept it going and it went back and I just didn't see it. But I didn't see it. One texter says, no leader has to tell people that they are the leader. Jeff is sad, but he's definitely not the leader of this team. That is Will Levis or DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I'd love for him to become that, but if you've got to tell people that you are the leader, you are not the leader. True leaders don't do things to hurt the team. He took all the attention away from football for a whole day. I don't know if I'd say Levis is the leader of the team yet. I think Levis is trying to prove simultaneously that he is a starting NFL quarterback, which again, jury's out on. He has to prove, and also proving that he's the leader of the team. But again, those things, leadership is not just anointed, it's earned. And so for Levis, I think he's got a lot of people that are rooting for him, but I'm not sure that he has a lot of people following him yet. That will come. Confidence comes because of success. Just like, again, being a star player comes with success. And people following you because you are the star player comes with that success and the way you carry yourself. So it'll be a little bit of time, but we shall see when it comes to Levis. Someone said, saw one report where Murray swung and a different report that said he smacked the helmet. Again, all I saw was them jawing, and DeAndre just kind of positioned his body in between it. What a big deal. 615-737-1025. Might be wrong about it. I don't know. 615-737-1025. I know there wasn't a melee today on the field like there was yesterday. Chris Sanders will join us next. Will he get better or get bitter? What will Chris have to say about everything that went down yesterday at practice and everything that went down today? We will do that next here on the program. Tune into 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Sounds take on Gwinnett. First pitch, 6:05, Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan. Presented by Twin Peaks Family Leisure, 5 Points Roofing, Caudle Vet Clinic, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Well, before y'all get started, we all know what happened yesterday. A lot of y'all have been here since I've been here. So y'all know me. That's not who I am. That's not who I want to be seen as. I talked to Buck. We have an understanding. I have an understanding where we're coming from. I have an understanding where he's coming from. He have a job. I have a job. At the end of the day, I take full accountability of my actions on the field. I mean, that'll never happen again with me. Like I said, I always talk about that switch, when to turn it on, when to turn it off. I was kind of still had it on coming off the field, of course, with the way practice went. But that, like I said, that's not me. It'll never happen again. And to all you guys, like I said, I apologize. And not because it's hit social media, but it's because who I am. That's not my character. And I think from here on out, like I said, from that point, like I said, I spoke on about it. I'm ready to move forward. Any football questions, I'm here to answer.
That was Jeffrey Simmons earlier today, kind of opening up his apology, and then he was asked questions, and then his answers were kind of half answered them, kind of was, moving forward, so on and so forth. But it's been a wild, wild week so far, and it's only Wednesday. Chris Sanders joins us now on the program, former Titans receiver. Chris, I was kind of bummed out after all the drama yesterday that we didn't have you on the show, because I am fascinated to know what you think. So what do you think of, shall we call it Simmons Gate? What do you think of what has happened over the last couple of days here?
You know, first of all, I want to start off by saying that Jeffrey Simmons and Buck, kind of, squashing the whole thing. But here's the thing. Both guys are at fault. I'm not going to go on one side or the other, but both sides are at fault. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. First of all, and I respect Buck. I respect what he said, whatever. But the thing about it is, talk about his game. Talk about him he needs to be a leader. Talk about he needs to get to the quarterback, as opposed to calling another man soft. See, we have to stop.
I was the one that called him soft. I don't think Buck called him soft.
No, but yeah.
But I do think Simmons is soft.
No, Jared, are you serious?
I do. I think he's soft.
Okay, okay. Let me ask this. What is the definition of being soft?
I think he's sensitive. I think he's too sensitive to be able to be in the leadership position that he's in. You think that Tom Brady doesn't have things said about him?
No. Let me break this down to you. When you talk about being soft, that means you're real timid. When you talk about a guy getting talked about and getting upset, that means you just need to mature in that area. That means you need developing, controlling your emotions. That's what that is. Because I'm gonna give you a perfect example. When I'm a really mild-mannered guy, and it takes a lot for me to get mad. So I'm in practice one day, and I come out the field and I read the paper, and I look, and somebody says something in the paper that I disagree with, and they attack me and my family. I'm not going to say his name. So me being irritated, me being upset, me being coming mad off the field, I went and I challenged him. I said, man, don't you ever disrespect me and my family in the paper like that no more. But then on the flip side, I had to take responsibility, because in that situation, I had to tell my emotions to shut up. My emotions were like, man, I want to fight you. I want to do this. But what I had to do is like a wad of paper that I didn't like. I should have crumpled it up, took his opinions, and threw it in the trash. Because at the end of the day, the only people's opinions that matter is my teammates, my coach, my head coach, my position coach. That's all that matters. So what I'm saying is, we gotta quit calling people soft.
No,
that's just my opinion. That's just my why.
No, this is football, Chris Sanders.
Jared, I love you and everything, but we gotta. When we say soft, let me ask you a question. If you and Jeffrey Simmons was in an alley, would you call him soft?
Yes. Jeffrey Simmons went on the other radio station and said, I don't think that this guy was talking about me in the tweet I sent out when he got mad about the old Jamal Adams thing. And I said it was soft. And he said, I don't think he'd say that to my face. And I'm like, yes, I would. I think that that's soft.
Jared.
It's not like the radio is some secret society here. It's not like everybody that doesn't have a radio can't hear exactly what I'm saying.
No, but here's the thing. When people make it personal. Now, if you talk about, you say, Chris, your route sucked. Chris, your the way you caught the ball sucked. But when people say, oh man, you soft, listen. See, sometimes even with me, I'm a mild-mannered guy. So people think, oh, he's just quiet, he's mild-mannered. But you don't
Nobody
understand.
thinks
There's a difference. No, I'm just saying in general. Like when I play football, I was just really meek and really whatever. So some people took that as being, oh, he's weak. No, there's a side of me that will tear your stinking head off. But at the end of the day, Jared, I have to tell my emotions to shut up. I'm not saying Jeffrey was right. Jeffrey Simmons was right by disrespecting another man by calling him the P word. He was wrong also. So what he has to do, you know what I'm saying? He's got to take responsibility of not saying that word also to another man. So I'm not covering him in that. But what I'm saying is when Buck is going to talk about his performance, don't call another man soft. That's all I'm saying.
So when, I mean, again, the tweet that apparently Buck sent out that got Simmons all mad was about Simmons starting a fight yesterday on the field and saying sloppy and he needs to lock TF in. I mean, that's not personal.
Okay.
So what's he mad
That's
about?
not personal.
And see, here's the thing. Again, I understand what you're saying, right? Like, to me, personal is talking about somebody as a parent, right? Like, oh, yeah,
absolutely.
you know, his daughter has green hair, so he must be a bad parent. Not that there's anything wrong with green hair or anything like that. 100%. I'm just saying, like, using that as an example. To me, that's where the line gets crossed. But if you're the leader of the team and you're going to pitch a fit on Twitter because you're a crybaby over the Jamal Adams thing, I'm going to call it how it is because you need to toughen up.
That is not a crybaby, man. Okay,
yes, it is.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, it is.
Let me ask you a question.
I asked Simmons, by the way, I asked Simmons, to Simmons' point, to Simmons' point, he went on the radio and he said, you know, somebody sent me a tweet of somebody in the local media calling me soft. That was me. He sent out there, and I bet he wouldn't say it to my face. Now, I was out of the country, so I didn't hear that he said this until yesterday. But the next week, I asked Simmons directly at the press conference, what was he talking about? And he I'm just moving on, and that's it.
Listen.
I gave him the opportunity to say something. You guys say something?
Listen,
say it.
Let me break this down to you. Let me break this down crystal clear so all the listeners can hear this. When we're in the locker room, there's a brotherhood in there, okay? And when Jamal Adams came into the Tennessee Titans, that was a brotherhood. So when you're talking about Jamal Adams as a teammate, I'm going to be pissed off. Let me give you a perfect example. If I ever was in a community and somebody disrespected Derek Mason, I'm going to punch him in the face. I'm just going to be honest because that's my now I'm saying all kind of mean. I'm not going to let nobody disrespect my friend like that because we have a brotherhood. And all Simmons was doing is protecting his brother. It's not that he's a crybaby. No. If we call each other a brotherhood, because listen, a lot of the media, you're not in the meeting rooms. And I'm not being disrespectful to the media. You're not in the meeting rooms where we're building a bond and we have a brotherhood and we're talking about we love each other. We're going to war with each other, all these things. So when I hear somebody talking about one of my teammates, I'm going to get mad. It's kind of like with my wife's face. Listen, let me tell you something. If somebody ever disrespected my wife, I'm gonna take a bullet for her. And that's kind of how, you know,
this is a little different, Chris. Your wife, your relationship with your wife to Jamal Adams being signed.
But Jared, that's what you don't understand. You are.
I know, but we talk about players stinking all the time. We talk about Aaron Brewer stinking, Andre Dillard stinking. Where was Jeffrey Simmons in defense of Andre Dillard last year when everybody in town was talking about how bad he sucked?
Jared, again,
I guess he doesn't have his brothers back there, but he does have Adams.
But somebody on the offensive line should have said something. I guarantee you, if Bruce Matthews or Brad Hopkins or Benji Olsen and somebody says something about them, I guarantee you Brad Hopkins will go off. Why? Because you're talking about somebody that's close to them. That's what you got to understand. See, everybody thinks that players are just these big old babies that are emotional and this and that. You got to understand something. We're human. We have emotions. It's not that we're just these big Superman guys that don't have emotions and walk around like robots and, okay, they're talking about me and I'm not going to feel that pain. That's bullcrap.
Okay.
We feel it.
I understand. I understand when like Will Levis and Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins last year got mad that the fans booed Malik Willis in the homestand.
Absolutely.
I get it. Now, I don't agree with calling the fans out, but that's their business. That's fine. I understand. But if Jeffrey Simmons is going to get mad about every negative thing that is said about the 89 other guys in the room, he's going to be spending a lot of time worrying about what Paul Kaharski's thinking and not a lot of time worrying about playing football. And that's why all these teams say, block it out.
Now, I agree with you 100% on that. Now, with that, I agree 100% because when you're talking about being professional, and we always say this, it comes with the territory. So what I had to do after I went after this person and told them how I felt, I left the locker room feeling like an idiot because I let their opinions, determine what I was going to become. And I said, hold on, let me step back a little bit. Whatever you say about me has nothing to do with my performance. All I want to do is have the respect of my players, respect of my coaches. So what Jeffrey Simmons has to do, we always talk about guys being a professional. Being a professional is not finishing a sprint. Being a professional is not breaking down the huddle. Being a professional is doing things right every single time. So now when his emotions are like, man, I want to yell at Buck Rising, just stop and pause and say, okay, how is this going to look as being the leader on the team? That's where he needs to get better at. That's what I'm saying.
Last one for you, and I just feel like asking you this question. If you were on the team today, would you hate me?
No, because I love you as my brother. I would never hate you.
No. I'm not talking about like the way we are now. I'm talking about if you were on that team and I was on the radio. Floyd told me. He said if I was GM, I wouldn't go on the radio with you. And so you're, even though I say guys suck and they're slow, or this guy can't catch, or this guy can't this. I mean, remember the argument we got into about Brock Bowers over Chig before the draft? I mean, if you were Chig's teammate, wouldn't you have to hate me? You just said if I hear somebody talk about my brothers, I'd take a bullet for him like my wife.
No. You know why? I would never be matched because I love you, brother.
I know, I love you too, but still, but
if you were sitting like in a locker room and I had a rock in my hand, I would throw it at you.
Former Titans receiver Chris Sanders, as always, on the program. Chris, we appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Love you, brother.
Saying Chris Sanders joining us on the program. I have to say, I vehemently disagree with 95% of the things Chris just said, but he said them. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. I know. Some of you have texted and said, can we talk about what happened at practice? Yes, there is something about practice that is really, really freaking me out. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106 through the game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. So a lot of people want to know, okay, that's great, all the drama, football. What about the actual football and the practice? What happened, Jared? Now, I vowed before training camp started, but I want to say before we even got close to training camp, I said, I'm not going to do what I did last year. Where this time last year, I was watching Traylon Burks and Chig Okonkwo, and I was like, those guys are about to have big seasons. I remember when Burks went down at the Minnesota practice. I watched it, and I said, oh, my God, I don't want to cancel the season, but that's how important I thought Traylon Burks was. He caught 16 passes. Chig Okonkwo, during training camp, Gentry Estes was sitting there next to me. He said, everybody's buying into this Chig Okonkwo hype, and I just don't see it. And I remember turning to him and go, I do. I think Chig is going to have a big year. Then we got into the season. Chig dropped the ball 10% of the time it was thrown his way, which is terrible. So I understand you guys want to hear about what's going on at practice. You guys want to think about what to expect for the season, and you guys can't all make it out to practice, so you want to hear, okay, yeah, this guy's looking good. He's sacking the quarterback. This guy's throwing the ball down the field. This guy's making great catches. This guy's – and I just can't push my chips all in the middle on some of these things because in the past, I've bought into them at training camp only to then say, well, I guess that didn't matter come week 3. And here's my real problem with my feelings about camp. Number one, here's what I think I would say that I've seen. Number one, Burks and Chig so far look really good, especially Burks. Like Burks looks like a player out there at training camp right now this year. I saw that Jim Wyatt put it in his story today. Traylon Burks looks like he's in shape. Traylon Burks looks like a tank that can run. All the things that would lead you to draft a guy with the 17th pick or whatever it was, that's what he looks like. Chig's catching the ball, making some nice grabs. We all know Chig's got the athleticism, all those things. So that's first thing. Burks and Chig look great. Number two, the Titans defense, for the most part, they did not as much today, but for the most part, the Titans defense has dominated training camp. I mean, they're getting to the quarterback, whether it's Arden Key, who's going to be suspended for 6 games, Harold Landry, Jeffrey Simmons, Tavondre Sweat, Sebastian Joseph Days look pretty nice there. Kenneth Murray's been all over the field. I think in the secondary, L'Jarius Sneed, my God, he holds all the time on every rep, it feels like. But that's his game. But even the corners, Jarvis Brownlee, had a little bit of an injury scare today, but Jarvis Brownlee looks like he might be a player. So the defense so far, for the most part, has kind of dominated. The offense has had some wow plays. Today, Tyler Boyd went up over Roger McCreary, who Levis threw a ball on the sideline, and Boyd made a great catch to bring it down. There have been some wow plays here and there. The right side of the offensive line's a total mess. John Ojukwu has tiny little legs. And I just can't envision the Titans having a starting tackle with tiny little legs. And today, I thought the real problem when they really went live in the team period was Sadiq Charles at right guard, not John Ojukwu at right tackle. But John Ojukwu, he can't start for this team. And Malik Willis looks much improved this year. Malik, again, Brian Callahan said that he was going to have those two, Malik and Mason Rudolph, compete for the backup job. Most of us don't believe that he's telling the truth, but Malik does look much better this year than he did last year, and certainly than he did the year before. But here's the problem with that. I told you, Burks and Chig look great. The defense has been dominant. The offense has had some wild plays. The right side of the line's a mess, and Malik looks improved. Last year, you want to know what I thought at training camp? Burks and Chig looked great. Then the season came around, and both guys forgot how to catch football. Last year, in training camp, the Titans defense dominated, just like they're dominating now. I remember I said, well, hey, we don't know if that's good defense, bad offense. We'll go to Minnesota. We'll see the joint practices. And if the defense is dominant, then we'll know it's a dominant defense. And they did go to Minnesota and dominate that defense with Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and Alexander Madison. And should I think of who else is on that team? Probably has last name Sun. So I thought, my God, this defense, they might be dominant. And then they lost to Derek Carr in week 1. They ranked 18th in the NFL. Dominant my tush. They had some wild plays in training camp last year on offense, mostly from Burks and Chig. The right side of the offensive line last year was a mess. And one thing we did talk about a lot, Malik Willis was improved last year. Remember, we talked about it. Then he got into games when Will Levis got hurt, and Malik threw for 85 yards over 4 quarters against Minnesota. And Malik got into the Ravens game and looked like he didn't even know the rules of the clock when he dove back inbounds. So everything that I'm seeing at camp, all these things, you guys are like, what's going on at camp? What's going on at camp? It's the same things I saw last year. And last year, I got excited about these things, and it didn't come to fruition. And what's the old saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I don't want to sit here and tell you, hey, Burks and Chig look like the real deal. Only to have Burks and Chig go out there and play the way that Burks and Chig played last year. I don't want to do it. It would almost be like if I were a stockbroker and I were looking at all the fundamentals and everything else, and I were telling you, buy Zergatech. You're like, what? Trust me, Zergatech. It is the great stock. So you buy a bunch of Zergatech, stock tanks. Then the next year, I'm a licensed stockbroker. I'm looking at the fundamentals, and I'm like, man, this company has great fundamentals. It reminds me of last year with Zergatech. Am I going to tell people to buy this new stock? I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant to get aboard the Burks and Chig train. I'm hesitant to believe that Denard's defense is that good. Every time the offense has a bad day, Brian Callahan gets up there and says, well, hey, Denard's defense, they're really good. And we have a dominant defense. We got a good defense, so we need to give them credit. I'm like, dude, we gave the defense credit last year. And then they finished 18th. So I am struggling to know whether or not this is real, what's going on at training camp, or whether or not it's just pure fool's gold. Now, there are some times where we've seen bad signs at camp become bad signs in the season. Andre Dillard, Ryan Tannehill's interceptions in 2021, those kind of things. But I remember when Chester Rogers and Marcus Johnson were lighting it up, we got excited about that. It's hard for me not to go to practice and then treat practice like gospel, assuming that's what it's going to be during the season, because I'm investing my time to be there. But at the same point, I don't want to come on and say the same things that I said last year that led me awry. So you want to know what's going on? That's what's going on. Chig and Burks look great. The defense is mostly dominated. The offense has had some wild plays. The right side of the line is a mess. And Malik Willis looks much improved. All the same things that happened last year. And it didn't make a difference. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Do you want to hear some good news? Something that I am buying out at Titans training camp. I am drinking the Kool-Aid on. Like I believe. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
coming in here, you know, you're taken out of Alabama, and I know you played a lot of the right side, but you played the left side. They want you on the left side here. What's that adjustment been like, even though you're just now kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of it? But what has that adjustment been like so far?
Yeah, I mean, true story. When I got to Alabama, I was a left tackle, and I never played right. And Evan Neal was there, so I thought how it went was you kind of put the best player at left tackle, you know. So I'm not going to say, oh, I'm better than Evan Neal, you know. I mean, I know he's been here for 2 years, started as a true freshman, so I'm assuming Saban's going to put him at left. And then so I'm like telling myself, all right, let me start working out at right tackle. So I literally started training right tackle like the day I got to Alabama. So didn't have no background experience in it. So it was a different type of transition. But once I got my foot wet and, you know, things started flying, I was good. And it's the same thing coming here, you know, played left going into college. So it's just kind of just riding the bike again.
That was J.C. Latham talking about the adjustment from right tackle to left tackle. Let me say this. Somebody texted into the text line and said, is Calvin Ridley in camp? I never hear his name. Yeah, he's in camp. They throw him the ball. I don't watch the wide receiver one-on-ones for the most part because I'm watching the big boys. And I'm watching Bill Callahan coach the big boys. And let me say this about, you know, Jared, you hate the Titans. Jared, you're always bitching about the Titans. Jared, it's always bad. It's always negative. Let me say this. You want some good news? I give some good news. What I see in J.C. Latham, and I am not Trevor, and I'm not claiming to be Trevor, but what I see in J.C. Latham the last 2 days when they've had the pads on is what I expect you to use the 7th overall pick on. He is the best tackle this team has by far. Now, the other tackles might not be very good, and I am aware of that. But, I mean, J.C. Latham, he's big, he's athletic, he can get his butt down, and he can anchor. Right now, it looks like he's capable of playing left tackle in the NFL. And if he's capable of playing left tackle in the NFL as a rookie, by the time the second year rolls around or the third year, then he should be one of the better left tackles in the NFL. And all I want, and all I think that, you know, is expected of the 7th overall pick at left tackle is to be stuck out at left tackle and we never have to worry about it again. I know Michael Roos was taken in the 2nd round. And I know Taylor Lewan was taken, I want to say, 14th in his draft. But the thing about those guys was you drafted them, you stuck them at left tackle, and for the most part, outside of their rookie years where they played some right tackle too, outside of their rookie years, you never had to worry about them when they were at left tackle or right tackle. With Taylor, the health was kind of an issue. But to me, I said this when he was drafted. And the Midday Show was talking about, you know, would J.C. Latham be a home run pick if he has a solid career? And I texted Willie. And I said, if he has Michael Roos's career, and I think Roos maybe went to 1 or 2 Pro Bowls, was never really considered the best left tackle in the NFL, but we watched him every week. He was a good, solid, didn't have to worry about it left tackle. If J.C. Latham becomes that, to me, that's good enough for the 7th overall pick. If you use the 7th overall pick on a wide receiver, he needs to be Jamar Chase, not Corey Davis. If you use the 7th overall pick on the left tackle, he just needs to be a dependable left tackle for about 10 years. And when we talked about Latham and his size and right tackle versus left tackle, it is noticeable to me that J.C. Latham has slimmed down since OTAs and minicamp and things like that, which make me think that they looked at him and said, hey, man, you're I don't even remember his right weight. What was it, like 355, 345?
I think that's about right. Yeah, 350 something.
Yeah, you need to be 335. You know, the left tackles usually play around 315, 320. We need you around 335. I would love to know what J.C. Latham's weight is right now because he looks noticeably skinnier to me than he did in the spring, which is a testament to him. You get the right guy coaching him. It looks like he's athletic enough. He's definitely big enough. He's strong enough. I was talking about John Ojukwu legs, and he's got these, I don't want to say he said it, but screw it. Derek said he's got wide receiver legs. He's standing on the line, John Ojukwu, is standing on the line next to Josh Wiley, and Josh Wiley has bigger legs than John Ojukwu. Well, that's why John Ojukwu is an undrafted free agent. Like, those are why those things matter. It kind of reminds me of Roger McCreary today. I told you the bomb Levis threw up over McCreary's head that Tyler Boyd went up and grabbed. And it reminded me 2 years ago, they played a game at Nissan Stadium. Joe Burrow just threw the ball to T. Higgins twice right there in the corner of the end zone. T. Higgins just went up over McCreary and grabbed it. And that size and McCreary's arm length, that's why McCreary went in the second round, didn't go in the first round. Well, Latham has all of the first round measurables. Like, he's got the body. He's got his legs are like grand pianos. So if you want some good news from Jared, that's your good news right there. J.C. Latham looks like he's in better shape. You know, Peter, God bless him, he's over there huffing and puffing, and Latham's going drill. So you want some good news? That's good news. I think J.C. Latham is looking the part of the 7th overall pick that you stick at left tackle, and there will be some growing pains as a rookie because it's the NFL. But after that, I expect it to be smooth sailing at left tackle. I expect it to be like Brad Hopkins, Michael Roos, and Lawan when he wasn't hurt. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Terrell is up next and has been waiting patiently here on the program. Terrell, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Jared?
Go ahead.
The show.
Thank you.
Look, I'm gonna help you with the whole thing with Chig and Burns. I was just like you. I was like, oh man, it's great. See, this is different. Last year we had to depend on Burns in order to turn around and to have a great year. This year we don't. With Whitney and Boyd, we don't have to actually depend on Chig and Burns to do anything. We can just say, okay, let's use the word, they're progressing well in camp. Say they're doing well. They're progressing well in camp. And so let's not do that. There's no way about them.
So what do you want me to do?
Best thing for me, okay, we have to wait. You have to be, like I said, use the word, they're progressing well. Okay, we take that. Let's look at the ones we need. Last year, our left side looked like crap. Now you just said the news. Jason Latham. That sounded way more better than what we did last year talking about Andre Dillon.
Oh, my God. I cannot tell you how different it looks between J.C. Latham and Andre Dillon. I mean, it is night and day difference with those two at the left tackle spot.
Yeah, and you almost had a heart attack. It's horrible and everything. Now, look at that left side. It is great from the center. I mean, you had a heart attack.
So, Terrell, I'm going to let you go because your phone. But I would say this. When it comes to the left side of the line, I am not there on Skoronski. Now, again, they haven't done a whole lot. And more importantly, I've been watching the right side more than I've been watching the left side. But I don't think Peter's the same player J.C. Latham is. Like, I don't think Peter's in the same category as J.C. Latham. I think that right now, if I had to handicap it for you, I would say that the best guy on the offensive line is Cushenberry. The most talented guy, the most upside, and the guy that I probably feel the best about is Latham. Peter, I certainly think is better than what they have on the right side, but I think we need to admit, jury's out on Peter. And then the right side, I think, is a mess. I thought Sadiq Charles was awful today. And I feel so bad for Dylan Radens. You know, I just don't get it. Radens was terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible when he came in as a second-round pick as a rookie. They never should have drafted him. He didn't play the year before because of COVID. He needed a lot of work, almost like Malik Willis needed a lot of work when Malik Willis showed up. Well, then Dylan gets a little bit better, you know, in year two, gets a little time here and there off the bench, and he tears his ACL. Then in year three, I thought at the end of last year was the best he's ever played at right tackle. New coach comes in, immediately moves him off of right tackle, and they're playing him at guard behind Sadiq Charles, and he's not getting a lot of time. Now, there was an opportunity today where they took out Sadiq Charles and John Ojukwu, and they put in Jalen Duncan and Dylan Radins. Now, I'm worried about Duncan because I don't think he's very good. I think it's pretty telling with Duncan that Duncan was not good last year. And then the coach thought, hey, he might be good. We might want to give him a chance. And that he's already been passed up by an undrafted free agent. That's not a good sign. And both Bill Callahan and Brian Callahan this week, when they were talking about Nicholas T. Frere, a.k.a.
PT.
When they were talking about PT, they were like, we hope to get Nick back by Friday. And I think even Levis today made a comment about can't wait till Nick gets back. And I don't like hearing that because I don't think very much of Petit Frere. And I also worry about his ability to actually stay on the football field because over the last year and a half, he hasn't given us much reason to think he can do that. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025 here on the program if you want to weigh in. And coming up next, I do have a hot camp take. Got a hot camp take. A hot camp take. And then we'll get back to your phones. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Well, when you have three guys who are viable number one receivers, like how do you go about that process of making sure that everybody eats?
Yeah, especially during camp, like you want to spread the ball around and you want to give guys love and show them that you have confidence in them and trust in them and that you're going to be coming to them with the ball. It's also on our, play callers and everyone on the staff to script things for certain guys and getting it communicated to me or the other quarterbacks what we're really trying to get done with this play. Like there's a situation today where, first and long, trying to pump a go ball down the field when we can just get ourselves to a manageable second down situation. But that's just because I want to work on that with Calvin, and being able to complete those down the field are going to be big for us. So I'm going to keep coming at guys. I'm going to keep pushing the ball, but also got to do a good job of understanding situations, especially once we get into these call-up periods and starting to play the game more game-like.
That was Will Levis today. I actually thought it was a pretty good question by TD to say, hey, you got 3 guys that have been number 1 receivers, and it's like, how do you make sure that Tyler Boyd isn't standing over there saying, hey, what about me? How do you make sure that you justify Calvin Ridley's $23 million contract by getting him the ball? How do you, DeAndre? The truth is there's one football. And we've already been talking today about Chig and Burks. And the Traylon Burks I saw today, this is what's crazy about the difference between practice and reality. The Traylon Burks I saw out there today. Ian, I want you to cut this. I'm going to give the midday show a topic. The Traylon Burks that I saw the last 2 days at camp is the best wide receiver on the football team. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm expecting Traylon Burks to be the best wide receiver on the football team this season, because I don't think he's consistent enough like those other guys are. He doesn't have the track record of those other guys. Maybe he's got, more chemistry with Levis because he's been around the longest. I don't know. But there's only one football to go around for all these guys. But that's not my camp hot take. My camp hot take is this. I think Tyler Boyd's going to lead the team in receptions this year. Because while DeAndre Hopkins has better chemistry with Levis and is probably a better catcher of the football, especially kind of slipping his way open and the contested catches and everything else, while he's probably better at that. And Calvin Ridley, again, is probably a better pure route runner and much more of a deep threat. I see Levis getting the ball out quick, and I see him getting it out quick to Boyd. And this offensive line, no matter how good of a guru Bill Callahan is, I think we can all agree that given the talent restraints that they have on the right side of the offensive line, and if you've got a weak spot on the line, the other teams are going to find it pretty quickly. The ball's going to have to come out quick. I worry that they may not be able to run the football very well this season. So the ball's going to have to come out quick. I asked Levis today, I said, what do you feel most comfortable doing, as the quarterback? And he said the basic concepts, the basic foundation of the offense he feels pretty good about. Now, the coverage changes, the motioning guys out of the backfield, going 5 wide, that kind of stuff that he knows they're going to have to do. And on a game-by-game basis, they're going to put that stuff in during the week on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. They're going to put that stuff in. But he says that stuff, they need to get better at. Just kind of the basic concepts of the offense he feels pretty good about. Well, if that's the case, then that means week 1 at Chicago, Brian Callahan needs to be running the basic concepts of the offense and then try to cater it to Levis. Well, if that's the case, it's going to be those 3 receivers, and the ball's going to be coming out quick because Brian Callahan's not going to want Montez Sweat to go out there and kill Will Levis with the right tackle situation. They're going to have it there, and the ball's going to come out quick. It's going to go Tyler Boyd. So that's my camp hot take, which is, as of right now, injuries are a total possibility and anything can happen. And again, the best Titans team of my lifetime had Derek Mason at wide receiver, who I believe had like 9 catches the previous year, and he set an all-purpose NFL record for all-purpose yards. That year, they went into the season, Kevin Dyson, number 1, Carl Pickens, number 2, Yancey Thickman, number 3, and they all got hurt. And it became the Derek Mason show that season. In fact, this time in that year, Isaac Byrd was probably ahead of Derek Mason. And at the end of the day, it ended up being D. Mason. So anything's possible. But if things go to plan, knock on wood, I think the leading receiver on this team is going to be Tyler Boyd. And I think they're going to wear him out. Just get it to Boyd, get it to Boyd, get it to Boyd, take a deep shot, get it to Boyd. And while, again, I have been very complimentary of what I've seen out of the tight ends, I still have my concerns about Chigg's ability to catch the ball. I have my concerns about Josh Wiley's ability to stay healthy. And those guys are not as reliant, or I don't think that the Titans can depend on them the way they can depend on Tyler Boyd. And I think the slot receiver is going to kind of alleviate a lot of stress for the young quarterback the way that most teams use their tight ends. 615-737-1025. Justin in Greenbrier says, Jared, it is great to hear that Latham is living up to his draft pick. I pray he can become a solid player that we can depend on and just forget about. Well, you won't forget about him, because if you can depend on him at left tackle, by the time he's due a contract, it's going to be $30 million a year. So he's going to be the second highest paid player on the team probably. If things work out the way the Titans want him to work out, Will Levis is going to be the highest paid player on the team. And then the second highest paid player on the team is probably going to be J.C. Latham. So we're not going to forget about him. But I understand the sentiment. And I think the sentiment you're talking about is stick him at left tackle and not have to worry about it. Last year, the last 2 years, we've watched Titan football. We've had to, okay, it's 3rd and 6. Oh, poor Tannehill. Now, they also had it coming up the middle because their center was 270 pounds, but at least we know that's figured out as well. One texter says, Jared, are you trying to get Burks traded for a right tackle? I don't think anybody's trading a right tackle for Treylon Burks. I don't think anybody trades right tackles. I know you'll tell me Dennis Kelly, but that's a swing tackle, and it wasn't as if the Titans thought they were acquiring a starter. They got lucky. I mean, I think that Burks is going to be on the team. I think Burks is going to be active on game day because they're going to stick him at gunner. But I do think there will be a fascinating battle, which is the 48. Again, this is minus injuries, and there will always be injuries. But if there aren't injuries, I do wonder how many active receivers they will have on game day, because they're going to have the top 3, Ridley, Boyd, and Hopkins, are all going to be active on game day. I don't see how NWI cannot be active on game day, because he does so many different things. He can play all 3 spots at receiver. He can play on special teams. NWI is the Swiss Army knife at receiver. He is too reliable, too dependable. He's out there making catches again at training camp. I think Nick Westbrook, Akine, and Trey Avery are going to play every game until we stop the NFL forever. That's how often they're going to find their way out on the field. So that's 4 receivers. Then somebody has to handle the kickoffs or the punt returns. So if that's Jaquan Jackson or Kyle Phillips or Mason Kinsey or whoever, that's 5. Are they going to have 6 active receivers on game day? Are they going to put NWI down? I wouldn't put NWI down. I'm not like a big believer that NWI is the difference between the Titans making it to the Super Bowl or not the Super Bowl or whatever it may be. But I do think he's consistent and he does a lot of different things. One texter says, I see our new veteran center Lloyd Cushenberry becoming the leader of the team as the season draws on. So Lloyd Cushenberry had a press conference yesterday, got up there. I thought it was impressive. No, he's asked about Levis, and he basically said the thing I love about him is how hard he works. Talked about the fighting, said, hey, man, it's going to happen in practice, but said all the right things. I don't know how good Lloyd Cushenberry is. I think he's probably good. Not great, but good. And anytime a guy who's good gets to free agency, guys who are great really don't often get the free agency. When guys who are good get to free agency, they get overpaid. But I absolutely could see Cushenberry becoming a leader of the team. Could absolutely see it. One texter says, don't say anything about Burks or you'll get beat up. Do you understand that, Ian?
By who?
I don't know.
You said good things about Burks today.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today about all the boo-hooing over Simmons. Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm disappointed in Chris Sanders today on the Simmons front, being like,
well, players don't like to be called soft. They
I
take
know.
that as like extra negative, like it's some type of shot at them that they're not tough players.
He's not tough. He needs thick skin.
Well, he plays through a lot of stuff, and he is tough on the field as far as
spitting in Marshall Yonda's face.
Well, I mean, he does. He
fighting Odell Beckham in the tunnel in London.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, he plays in the trenches.
So, like the guy that I
kind
would
of
say
stuff
is tough,
plays hurt.
The guys that I would say are tough on the team, like I think Dylan Radins is tough because Dylan Radins has been crapped on every single year, and he gets right back up. You know, I am starting to have an appreciation in terms of toughness from Malik because Malik got booed at his own stadium, and Malik keeps getting better and better and better. When Malik got booed at the stadium, Levis said something about it. Henry said something about it. Hopkins said something about it. You didn't hear Malik bitch about it. To me, if you can't take a little bit of criticism, you're not tough. I mean, I'm sorry. Do you see the things that are said on Twitter about me? And guess what? It doesn't bother me. And Jeffrey Simmons makes about $23 million more than I do. And so when it comes to, you know, like Chris saying like, no, it's okay for Simmons to get all worked up and sensitive and in his feels about the Jamal. No, focus on football, block all the other stuff out. And with Burks, I got to give Burks credit because I was thinking about this with the boo-hooing from Simmons, which is Treylon Burks has just been absolutely torn apart this year. And when Trevor just ripped him 8 ways to Sunday, his coach came out and defended him. His teammates came out and defended him. But you didn't hear Treylon Burks sitting there and boo-hooing about what Trevor said. I'm sorry. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Speaking of Simmons, there is one thing that I think, and this is football related, keyword they're related, that I think he did flush down the toilet yesterday. He probably doesn't think so, but like if I was on the defense on the field when I'd be like, dude, don't do that. Don't just don't do that. We'll get to that next. Let's talk Window Nation. I love Window Nation. They're the one company that installs new windows that I trust. And they were recently ranked highest on Forbes' list of best window installation companies. With it being hot outside and the temperatures and the heat indexes in the hundreds, you want to make sure you've got the right windows or else you'll be jacking up the AC, and you do not want that. Right now, for every 2 windows you'll buy, you'll get 2 windows free, plus 0 down and no interest or payments for 2 years. Again, for every 2 windows you'll buy, you'll get 2 windows for free. 0 interest and no payments, 0 down for 2 years. Stop paying more than you have to. Schedule the in-home estimate right now at 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com. That's 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com.
This is another reason why I wanted to have you here, because you, Jeffrey Simmons, week 1 of the National Football League season, will be the first human being on the other side of the line of scrimmage in a game.
I can't wait to say that to him.
For Caleb Williams.
Most definitely.
So
Painted nails. Ha 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 ha. That was the Rich Eisen show last month where Jeffrey went out to LA and Jeffrey and Rich Eisen, who, by the way, I mean, Rich is a good studio host. The other things Rich Eisen does, he's not a good radio host. That show's terrible. Nobody watches it. And when he calls these games on NHL Network, NFL Network, he's terrible. But he is a good studio host. I'll give him that. Like a Sports Center anchor, NFL Network, the game day on Sunday. Great at it. Great. But so he had Jeffrey Simmons on a show, and Jeffrey Simmons was bragging about how big of a good trash talker he was. And then he was talking about Caleb Williams. And again, Ian, if we could get that cut, Rich Eisen trying to set this up. Simmons already tells you what he's going to say to Caleb Williams week 1 to get in his head.
this is another reason why I wanted to have you here, because you, Jeffrey Simmons, week 1 of the National Football League season, will be the first human being on the other side of the line of scrimmage in a game.
I can't wait to say that to him.
For Caleb Williams.
Most definitely.
So
I can't wait to say that to him. I can't wait to make fun of his painted nails. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. I think we might want to retire that for a little bit, because here's what's going to happen. Caleb Williams breaks the huddle, gets to the line of scrimmage. Wide 80. Wide 80. Hey, you have painted nails. Hey, you are a crybaby that lost his temper over the radio, what the mean radio host said. Hike. And everybody, at least for about the first half of this year, maybe even longer, like, this is Jeffrey Simmons' reputation now. Like, this went viral. And so the big tough guy, that went away yesterday. I mean, I feel bad for Simmons because he gets off on that stuff and, like, it's gone. Like, the intimidation, I'm the man, I'm going to make fun of your painted nails. Okay. Hey, any radio host say anything to you lately? 58, hike. I mean, if you're that sensitive to criticism, which, again, clearly he is, they're going to give it to you right back. So the second you start to trash talk and they're just going to give it to you right back, and they're going to laugh at you. And so now you better go sack the quarterback, and that'll make things better. But again, like, this idea now that you're going to make fun of Caleb Williams' painted nails and you're going to get under his skin, I would be shocked. I would be shocked. Number one, he knows it's coming because you said it, which probably wasn't a very good idea. And number two, again, you don't look like Mr. Tough Guy when you're sitting there telling Buck, I think it was Paul wrote in his article yesterday, in the span of 10 words, Simmons went from don't talk on social media, talk to me. Buck replied by saying, I'm talking to you now. Simmons said, I don't want to talk to you. So talk to me and I don't want to talk. Like, okay. And I just envision everybody that gets trash talked to by Jeffrey Simmons to have some ammo to fire back. And he's probably going to have to cool it as far as the losing the temper, because, again, he now has a reputation. It's gone viral about his temper, and that means yellow flags are going to come out faster. They're already looking at him. Marshall Yanda, in his last game with the Ravens, he said in the locker room after the game, I am putting 98 on the Titans on notice because he's dirty. Well, stuff like that starts to add up. Let's go to your phones. 615-737-1025 here on the show if you want to weigh in. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mike texts in and says the only reason why Treylon Burks has not said anything is because Treylon Burks knows that he sucks. I think the reason why Treylon Burks hasn't said anything is because Treylon Burks, and I gave Treylon Burks credit about this, regardless of whether or not he works out as a wide receiver. Treylon's put his head down and gone to work. The Titans have gone out of their way. Last year, they gave him a starting position that he didn't earn. Since then, it's been, we're going to sign Calvin Ridley. We're going to look at Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors. We're going to bring in Tyler Boyd. It is we don't really care about you. If you make it, great. If not, well, we're prepared. He's put his head down and worked. Trevor criticized him. It became a big deal. He put his head down and worked. I got to give him credit for that. I would say that I think Burks, they went on the road to Houston last year. And this was the last game that Levis played last year. And if you remember the first play of the game, Levis threw a 70-yard bomb down the field. It hit Burks right in the hands and he dropped it. And after the game was over, Burks was talking to the media and they were like, well, was the ball a little bit too far? He's like, nah, I dropped it. I need to catch it. The end. I.e. hand in the air. I screwed up. And I appreciate the accountability. May not work out for him as a football player, but Burks the guy. I don't have the same criticisms about Burks that I do with Simmons. One texter says, you are the only, in all caps, Ian, you are the only one that sees it that way. I'm guessing that Simmons can't trash talk anymore or that Simmons is sensitive. Saying everybody else sees him as a dog.
Oh, the soft part.
Vrabel was more sensitive than Big Jeff. Why don't you call Vrabel soft? First of all, nobody was on Vrabel's ass more than I was. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. If you think anybody in town was on Vrabel's ass the way I was, it's complete and total revisionist history. I was on Vrabel's ass, and he hated it, and I like him, but he probably doesn't like me. And it is what it is. I think he's a good coach. I think he'll get a job next year. I think he'll win some games if they have a quarterback, but I wouldn't trust him to hire a coaching staff if my life depended on it. But Mike Vrabel is not softer than Jeffrey Simmons. Sure. Did Mike Vrabel not like the criticism all the time? Did Mike Vrabel overreact, sometimes turn into a complete chotch? Absolutely. But I mean, Vrabel, and there were a lot of things said of him when he was a coach, never had a moment like Simmons had yesterday. I guess maybe if you want to say at the end with Gentry Estes over the losing sucks thing, maybe that was that. But again, that wasn't like he wasn't going to fight Gentry. Again, I pissed Vrabel off. Ian, how many times do you think I pissed Vrabel off over the 6 years he was the coach?
I don't know. It's a good question.
20?
I mean, like just in press conferences?
Well, just in general. I mean, there was, I'm not running down to do the field goals because they got the referees there. And because quite frankly, I don't feel like doing it. But I'm not running down there to do it or whatever. And I was talking to Paul about it yesterday. And there was a moment last year where I was underneath the goal doing the, good, not good, whatever. And Vrabel turned around and Vrabel stared me down. And I'm looking at him what? Either the field goal's good or the field goal's not good. Get off my ass. Well, I don't understand. What does this have to do with me? So over the years, I'm sure I pissed Vrabel. I'm sure that of the times that I knew that I made him mad, it was probably 15. And I'm sure there were 6 or 7 other times where something got to him and he got mad about it, but I just never heard of it. And so, again, Vrabel but I don't think he was the level of sensitive that where he, again, with me, where he was completely unglued and unhinged. At least I never felt that way. Even the be a man or think like a dude in that one, when he was Jared, you and I will never think, you will never think like me. If you listen to that cut, I'm kind of in the back, so I don't have a microphone and he does. But he was like, if you're ever trying to think what I'm thinking, I looked at him like with a smile, I was like, think the opposite. And he smiled back. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't like yesterday where, again, as it was told to me, it's a good thing that the camera wasn't pointed the other direction, the way apparently Jeff. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So we know the Simmons issue, right? We talked about it on Tuesday before any of this happened. We talked about Simmons not being able to be accountable about what he tweeted and what he says and what he means. And then he had a meltdown yesterday. He half sincerely apologized about it today. That is okay. Got it figured out. Understood. There's another part to this, though. The general manager, the coach, the way they built the team, the leaders on it, that I really did start thinking about today during practice. And I do think it's kind of a red flag. I want to get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106 through the game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Yesterday, Jeffrey Simmons went crazy. Today, Jeffrey Simmons apologized for it. Again, I thought half sincerely. Kind of felt like, yeah, all right, I've got to say I'm sorry, so I'm sorry, but I don't want to talk about it anymore. Don't ask any questions. I asked about 4 questions. And it was like, all right, no more questions. Okay. Guess that's kind of being accountable. But again, the issue here with me and Simmons, it's not about him going at Buck and everything. I mean, that was just uncalled for and quite frankly unprofessional. But that's his business, not mine. What the overarching issue for me is that this guy was supposed to be the leader of the team. Rand Carthon last week anointed him as the leader of the team. He got up in front of the media last week and talked about what he's been doing to be the leader of the team. And then he went out there and he did that. And so I started thinking about that proclamation Rand made last week about Simmons and how the way that he used to lead the D-line group, but now he leads the whole team, and the way he handles his business, and they want everybody to see that, and they want him to handle the business the same way. I'm like, yeah, no. And then I think about the fact that Rand Carthon and the Titans leadership at some level, they never seem to really value the leadership that they had. And I'm really talking about Byard and Henry. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think there was really any friction between Rand and Ryan Tannehill. But at the same time, like Rand Carthon, when they drafted Will Levis or before the draft, he said, Ryan and I have had a talk, and that stays between Ryan and I. And then Tannehill was asked about it after the draft, and he's like, yeah, I mean, we had a talk, but there's a lot of different ways you can interpret that. And I interpreted what Tannehill was saying as, yeah, I mean, we talked about it, but whatever. It did feel very much like outside of Simmons. It was kind of like, yeah, Henry, Tannehill, Byard, those are yesterday's guys. And I'm worried about the future. And I get it. I understand. Rand wasn't brought in to be the general manager to sit there and try to roll it out with a 35-year-old quarterback. Got it. But I do value the leadership that Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and Kevin Byard brought to this football team. And I don't think there's any doubt, as disappointed as I was in Ryan Tannehill after he threw the 3 interceptions against the Bengals and then went MIA for months and didn't show up for the start of voluntary workouts and things like that, it is not an accident that this team at 2-4 turned to Tannehill and immediately flipped a switch. There is something that is not tangible about that Ryan Tannehill brought to that football team. He had it. We know Derrick Henry was a great leader. Derrick Henry was everything that they said and Eddie George was. And Kevin Byard was a great leader too. The guy the Titans turned to every time there was a moment of crisis was Byard. Something bad went wrong, Byard, get out there and talk about it. John Robinson got fired, Byard, get out there and talk about it. Mariota got benched, Byard, get out there and talk about it. And I'm not sure that the current leadership really, and I'm talking about the organizational leadership, valued that much. Because I look at this football team and I don't really know who the leaders on the football team are. And I wonder if that's the mistake of a young GM and of a young coach. Somebody texted in last hour, and I didn't read this text simply because I didn't want to blow this segment that I was really been passionate about. And they texted in and said, you ever think how Barry Trotz gets leaders on the team, but the previous the Titans GM / Rand, they're just getting athletes? What's your take on the Predators versus Titans leadership? And I was sitting there thinking to myself today, Rand Carthon has been a general manager now for a year and 2 weeks. Brian Callahan has been a head coach for 2 weeks. Barry Trotz has been in the hierarchy of an organization for 25 years. There's a difference between the two. One has significantly more experience than the other. And Barry Trotz makes no mistake. Like, there is no question what he's looking for. That's why he loves Steven Stamkos and Ryan O'Reilly and Jonathan Marchessault and Ryan McDonough and Brady Shea. Like, he loves those guys because he thinks it matters. And so I wonder, and again, I'm not sitting here like yelling and screaming about Rand or Brian Callahan saying that how could they possibly not think about it? But today's era, everybody wants to be Mr. Analytical, and they want to be able to pull out spreadsheets and leadership and that value of how important a team can rely on a guy. I don't think they factor that in on their Excel documents when they're trying to decide, who gives us the most EPA above expected average at .com, whatever. And all I can think about is what Floyd did the second that the Steve McNair, Eddie George era ended. I remember, this is crazy, because I'm sure I'm like everybody else. I have a vivid memory of my freshman year of high school at university school. And the Titans had just had the last 5 years, have been to the playoffs 4 times. They were Super Bowl contenders. They had Steve McNair was league MVP. And they started off the 2004 season, and they released Eddie George. And they were terrible that 2004 season. It led to them picking Pac-Man, I think with the 5th or 6th pick or something like that. And I remember my math teacher at the time, Miss Pope, and she said to me, she goes, "What's the problem with the team? Is it that Eddie George isn't there anymore?" And at that point, Eddie certainly wasn't a star player. I mean, Eddie was very diminished at that point in his career from the peak Eddie George. And a gazillion carries will do that to you. But the day that window shut was the day Eddie George left the Titans. Regardless of the fact that at that point in time, Chris Brown was probably a better pure running back than Eddie George, given Eddie's age and wear and tear. But they never won without Eddie. And then the next year, Steve McNair was gone. And I know how much the guy who was picking the players then valued leadership. That's why it's not an accident that the next year in free agency, after they lost McNair, although they thought McNair was going to be on that team, but it ended up not working out because of contract reasons. But they went out and signed Hall of Famer Kevin Mawai. They signed Super Bowl quarterback Kerry Collins. They signed David Thornton and Nick Harper from perpetual contenders Indianapolis, and they signed David Givens, and I know he played 5 games because he got hurt, but David Givens, I believe, was a 2 or 3 time Super Bowl champion with the Patriots. Winner, 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 winner. They went out and got guys that have won. And so I wonder if the Titans went into this offseason, and as much as they looked at these different players and they collaborated on what they wanted, and yeah, L'Jarius Sneed won the Super Bowl. And Lloyd Cushenberry, seems to, bring something to the table. But did they look at Derrick Henry's leadership? Did they look at Ryan Tannehill's leadership, Kevin Byard's leadership, and think, oh, we'll be fine? Because again, when you're talking about what you're looking for in these players, you're looking at what the spreadsheet says. Well, his wingspan is this. His RAS is that. His .com is this. His .org is that. But is leadership ever included in that? I don't know the answer. And I'm wondering if that was something that the Titans maybe overlooked this offseason with a young coach, with a young GM. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. A lot of you want to weigh in. We'll get to your phones. Plus, I was a little disappointed today at what somebody else had to say about the events of yesterday. We'll do that next. Stillman & Company, 1025-1063. The Game. That's our phone number, 615-737-1025. Nashville's best deal of the week is admission to the Frist Art Museum. Enjoy ever-changing exhibitions from world-renowned collections. Get creative in Martin Art Quests the first hands-on art making space, and find unique handcrafted items in their gift shop. Current exhibitions include fashion, photography, graphic art, ceramics, VR, and more. Head to theGameNational.com/deals now to get 2 tickets to the Frist Art Museum for the price of 1 while supplies last. That is a $15 savings. That's the Frist Art Museum.
Jeff was in the middle of some fights yesterday, and then had a confrontation with a radio guy. I'm just wondering where you think his mindset is, and if something's going on with him.
Look, we don't condone fighting out here. We want to practice the right way. We talk about live on the edge, play on the edge, don't hurt the team. But we have a thing around here, especially on defense. All right, when you mess up something, okay, you address the problem, you make it right, and you move on. And that's what we want to do. In terms of the off the field stuff, I have nothing to do with that, and I'm not going to comment on that.
That was Denard Wilson, the defensive coordinator today. So when it comes to the fighting, hey, we want to play on an edge. We don't want to push the envelope too far. We got to be controlled. We worry about that. We try to make things right. As far as the antics that everybody across the country is talking about, I have no comment. It's a little disappointed in Denard Wilson today. And I was a little disappointed in Brian Callahan, too. I'm going to start on the Denard Wilson front because I think Denard Wilson is head coach material. I mean, this guy, you listen to these players talk about him and about, the way he holds them accountable. I was watching him today coach up the DBs. And I don't care if you are the worst player on the team. There was some guy, Robert Javier. I've never heard of this guy. Maybe he makes the team. Maybe he goes to the Hall of Fame. I don't know. We'd never heard of this guy. And he was coaching him up. And then Tay Gowan had a rep, and he was coaching him up. And then the next guy had a rep, and he was Jarvis Brownlee's coaching him up. And I mean, I find Denard Wilson to be very impressive. And to me, if he knows, this is like Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur came in as offensive coordinator knowing I got to be offensive coordinator and call the plays for a year and then go be a head coach. Denard Wilson knows I need to come in here, install this defense. We need to play well on defense, and I'm going to go be a head coach. If the Titans' defense is good this year, he's going to be a head coach next year. Well, this is an opportunity to speak for the organization. The head coach decided not to talk today, which I don't like, but the head coach decided not to talk, so you're up there. You're the one who now has the opportunity to answer for Simmons. And he didn't take the opportunity to show that he could manage this as if he were a head coach. And then when it comes to Brian Callahan, I was disappointed that he didn't address it before the coordinator spoke this morning. That he didn't get up there and say, all right, I know what happened yesterday. That it's unacceptable. We've talked to Jeffrey about it. And as an organization, blah, 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 and our fans, blah, blah, blah. I didn't like that. Because you're the head coach. You set the tone every day. Bill Polian, Hall of Fame executive, he said, and this really stuck out to me, but he said to me one time, he said that the head coach is more important than the general manager because the head coach is the one who, as he said, touches the players every day. Sets the tempo and the tone for the organization. Well, yesterday was kind of a crisis moment. And that's where leadership steps in. And so what's going to happen, Brian Callahan's not talking for the rest of the week. So Brian Callahan's not going to speak on this until what, Saturday? And he will be asked about it because he's the head coach. And it's like, you're the head coach. Don't you want to control the narrative about where you stand so that everybody knows? And I guess they didn't. I mean, part of me thought that until Simmons spoke today, I thought the Titans were just going to pretend like yesterday didn't happen. It's like, oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. So Brian Callahan says, hey, I get along with the players. I don't, rip their asses too much. But if I need to, I will. If I need to hold somebody accountable, I will. But it was disappointing to me today to see that he didn't address it. Again, we're talking about accountability. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Mike says, what free agent in this year's class do you think exhibits the master leadership qualities that you were talking about? Well, Ian, I've got one off the top of my head of a leadership quality player that I think, needed and value the leadership and could have helped this team.
Who's that?
Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I was in favor of bringing Derrick Henry back. Well, Jared, he's not the same anymore. And I know. But he's the face of the organization, and I think the young quarterback could have used it. They felt differently. They went with Tony Pollard. And I'm not going to say Tony Pollard's not a leader, but there's a difference in terms of clout between Derrick Henry and Tony Pollard. Dre is up next on our program. Thank you for waiting. What's up, Dre?
Man, it's like every day when I tune into you guys, man, it's just like a whole bunch of girly men crying. Dude, what are y'all talking about Simmons again? Leadership and come on, man. Look, it's training camp, man. Have your entire audience, because I don't hear any pushback. Your entire audience, I'm just asking the question to you and all of them. Have ever this was him leading in and pushing this offensive line, which has been forever and a day, pushing those guys like
Ian, is it us? Like this is everybody. Oh, put Dre on hold for a second, because this is the second. Like I feel like this is the second time in the last hour that somebody's phone's been all jet. Is that us?
I don't think so. I have a theory that, the cell towers, the cell phone companies are skimping on our phone calls because nobody calls anymore and everyone just texts. So they're just like, taking away resources from their phone calls.
I think that's kind of a hot take.
That's conspiracy theory hot take. But yeah,
that is really some bull crap. All right, let's give Dre another try here. Dre, let's see if your phone works. It might be our fault. I don't know. Let's go. Dre. I'm going to guess it's our fault. I don't know. But, I mean, in the first 20 seconds of what he said, it sounded clear. And then all of a sudden it was just like, you're making a really passionate point, and I can't hear a damn word you're saying. I mean, when Chris Sanders on, his phone works fine. The other callers, their phones work fine, except for the one last hour and this one. I don't know. I think I heard from that him basically being like, Simmons is making these guys better by pushing them to be better. So I'm just going to assume that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, something about, toughening up the O-line and setting the tone for training camp.
What's that got to do with Buck? Like, what's that got to do with what happened with Buck yesterday? Again, the part that I couldn't get over, I mean, I was laughing last night. I showed my dad the video. He laughed and we laughed. My favorite part was when Simmons said to Buck, don't talk on social media, talk to me. Buck said, I'm talking to you right now. He said, I don't want to talk to you. So in the span of 1 second, he went from talk to me to I don't want to talk about you. I think it was Barstool Sports wrote, it had some big hold me back energy. And I agree. One texter says, thought Simmons was overrated for a couple seasons, but did appreciate his attitude and toughness he portrayed. But even that has gone away the way he's handled himself this offseason. I think it's a fair point. Did Dre say that I was a Taylor Lewan guy?
I don't know. Dre's back, though, if you want to try again.
Dre, let's try your phone again. What was the crux of your point? You've got 20 seconds.
Man, my point was simply, man, did it ever occur to you, whatever choice word, that's how he's leading. He's choosing to lead by pushing the offensive line.
But what's that have to do with
showing
Buck?
them what they're going to go through all year long. And those guys stood up and fought back and forth. Man, that happens in every
But what does that have to do with him getting into it with Buck?
Huh?
What does it have to do with the viral video of him acting like a fool?
Have you seen Buck, man? Everybody wants to he's the new Paul Kaharski, dude. Well, actually,
is he?
Yeah, he's you. He's
is he?
You and Buck. I would thump you and Buck myself.
Dre, thank you for your call. I mean, is he Paul? Like, I watched Paul get in a fight today about nothing. Like, nothing. I watched it. I thought to myself, PK, why do you have to be such an ass? Like, I watched it. And apparently, there was one of those situations with Paul that happened before I even got there today. I would say that there's a far stretch between Buck and Paul. One person who knows all about that, Jason Fitz, will join us next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Well, before y'all get started, we all know what happened yesterday. A lot of y'all have been here since I've been here, so y'all know me. That's not who I am. That's not who I want to be seen as. I talked to Buck. We have an understanding. I have an understanding where we're coming from. I have an understanding where he's coming from. He have a job. I have a job. At the end of the day, I take full accountability of my actions on the field. I mean, that'll never happen again with me. Like I said, I always talk about that switch, when to turn it on, when to turn it off. I was kind of still had it on coming off the field, of course, with the way practice went. But that, like I said, that's not me. It'll never happen again. And to all you guys, like I said, I apologize. And not because it's hit social media, but it's because who I am. That's not my character. And I think from here on out, like I said, from that point, like I said, I spoke on about it. I'm ready to move forward. Any football questions, I'm here to answer.
I think that's like the third time I've heard that. And as I heard that right there, what kind of stood out in my head was when he was like, I'm not just saying this because it went viral on social media. Really? Like, really? I'm not sure I totally believe that. I do. So apparently when I asked about the Taylor Lewan guy thing, apparently the text line has told me that is in reference to the video, that at the end of the video, and I must have watched that video last night like 100 times because I thought it was funny. But at the end of the video, somebody says that Simmons calls Buck a Taylor Lewan guy. So I have no dog in this fight. Zero. I like Buck fine, but I'm not picking a horse here. Buck is 100% a Taylor Lewan Bobo. Like if Taylor Lewan were to tell Buck something, he would believe it like the gospel to the high heavens. And that has nothing to do with like any criticism or any whatever. I'm just telling you, I've felt that way for a long time. Buck wants to be the third boy on the bus of Bussin' with the Boys. So I didn't know that. I did not know that Simmons said that he was that is amazing. Like, wow. I had not heard of. And I think that's pretty good. Like, I'm like, okay, that one, hey, point Simmons. Text says there's a thin line between being tough with an attitude and being soft, and Simmons is turning to soft because he's starting to complain about everything. See, that's the thing that really, and I said this earlier today, I was very disappointed. We had Chris Sanders on. I was very disappointed in Chris from this standpoint. Apparently, what Simmons says pissed him off about the media is the Jamal Adams stuff. The Titans signed Jamal Adams for the veteran minimum. We all looked at it like, why? It's not 2018. You signed Jamal Adams. Guy's never healthy. What? Why? And Simmons apparently got mad about that. And Chris Sanders compared it to his wife, which I thought was just absolutely wild. The whole, like, if somebody said something about my wife, I'm like, nobody's saying anything about his wife. And Chris's argument was that, hey, the guys in the locker room, they're like brothers. And because they're like brothers, they felt like whatever. And I don't equate that. But even if he is upset about the whole Jamal Adams thing, dude, you got to block that out. Like, this is Nashville, Tennessee. I was stunned yesterday when Brian Callahan made the comment about how everything negative gets magnified around here. I'm like, dude, this is Nashville. Go try Boston. I mean, I guess we could be like Dallas. I could be like Dallas, and I could say that, I don't know if you guys saw this, but in Dallas, they don't want to talk about the Cowboys because the Cowboys offseason was so bad. I guess we could just ignore it and talk sounds, but no. So right now, it's been a bad football team. One texter says, just to be clear, you're not taking a side between Simmons and Buck, but didn't you say this morning I stand with Buck? Okay, so I tweeted in all caps this morning, I stand with Buck. That is in reference to Kaharski. So Kaharski went on the morning show today, and apparently, as we were talking about fights that Kaharski starts, and I said there was a fight that was started before I got there. Apparently, Kaharski got into it with the other morning show because Kaharski said that they weren't defending Buck. Then he went on our morning show and talked about how they should have Buck's back of being Buck's teammate or whatever. And I was saying, I stand with Buck in reference to that. But what I mean is, like, I'm not biased one way or another. Like, I don't have like a pro Buck bone. You know, it's not like oh yeah, that's my buddy, I'm going to defend him. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. As far as who was right or who was wrong in the argument, well, we know who was right because the other guy apologized and said he was wrong. But as far as like the Jared, who do you care about more? It's not really like a competition for me, if that makes any sense. One texter says, I don't know if I'm going to follow this, but I'm going to try. We live in a want to see it die/cancel society, especially in the video game industry. Okay, let's see where this goes. If a company makes a decision that the community doesn't like, the whole community will go and flood it with negative reviews until the company reverses its decision. It's real and it works. I wish we as fans had the ability to cause an impact like that. You do. It's called this show. That's the point. The talk radio host in today's society, the sports talk radio. I don't know like local news talk as far as like how much that moves the needle politically or not. I don't operate in that space. But as far as sports talk radio, the sports talk radio host has replaced the newspaper columnist. Now, newspaper columnists still exist, and I think they still do a good job. I think I like reading Gentry in the Tennessean. But the radio host, the impact, has replaced that of the columnist. If you don't think the players, the coaches, and the owners listen to this show, just ask yourself, if you were the quarterback and there was a show that talked about you for 4 hours a day, would you listen to the show to see what they said about you? And the answer is mostly yes. Owners listen to all the shows. Trust me, they listen. They want to know, what are the people saying? They want to know. So when you're acting like, hey, we as fans, we do not have a way to get through to the team. Yes, you do. Again, I'm going to say that every time I say something that I think is true, and it has to do remotely with me, like if I say, yeah, I caused this building to fall down, it's like, oh, you think it's all about you. And it's like, no, I actually think I caused the building to fall down when I took out the brick. And it's so, yeah, but no, it's all about you. So I sometimes don't like saying things, but like, there's definitely a couple instances where I'm like, yeah, I think I probably was the one who probably did that. And honestly, it's part of the reason why I like my job, because I care about the teams. And when it comes to caring about the teams, I want my opinion heard. You don't have to do what I say, but I appreciate it being heard. One texter says, Jared, you need to plan a show in the very near future where you're nothing but positive, and it will blow everybody's mind. They would see how absurd being positive all the time really is. I have a hard time with the being positive all the time because I think it's disingenuous. Like, to me, all we want to do is talk about the football team, whether or not they're going to be good, right? That's all we care about. And when it comes to whether or not there's good, there are all these different little nooks and crannies that, oh, does the team have good leadership? Does the team have good coaching? Does the team have a good quarterback? Is the quarterback starting to gel with the receivers? That all adds up to this giant slice. Each thing's a little slice, and it's a giant pie that determines whether or not they're good. And we analyze it every day. Not everything is positive all the time. I said today, I have been very impressed with J.C. Latham. That to me, when I look at J.C. Latham, I see the 7th overall pick in this year's draft. Like I see, hey, you pick that player 7th. He's got the size, he's got the tush, he's got the legs, he's got the athleticism, he is blocking. Like that is what you do. You pick that guy 7th. You want a starting left tackle that looks like that, you pick him 7th. That's how you get him on your team. You don't get that at free agency. That's positive, right? I was really bearish on the J.C. Latham draft choice anyways. So I'm positive when I feel like the positivity is warranted. But right now, the Titans don't have a good football team, folks. Are there some things that could go their way and it'd be great? Sure. But I can't say they have a good football team when they don't have a right tackle. And I don't need to tell the story again, but it's true. Ask the old man, Ty's going to be good. They don't have a right tackle. Well, this team doesn't have a right tackle. 615-737-1025. So PK is reporting something that I didn't see. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but it is something that, if it did happen, might be a little bit of an issue. We'll get to that next, and your phones, 615-737-1025. Let's give something away, but first, Ian, X out the phones. First, I'm going to talk about Twice Daily and White Bison. That's right. I love White Bison. White Bison is your local coffee shop with specialty coffee and so much more. Explore their selection of premium coffee blends, refreshing iced drinks, and food, featuring fresh-made premium breakfast, lunch, and snack options. Download their app and join the White Bison Rewards program where you can place orders on the go anytime, get rewarded, and earn free coffee. Stop by White Bison and brighten your day with a sweet cinnamon beehive latte, an iced honey nut macchiato, or the vanilla rooibos tea latte. Find your perfect cup at White Bison, where it's finely crafted for you every single day. White Bison and Twice Daily. That's Twice Daily. All right, be caller 5 right now. Ian, unnext the phones at 615-737-1025, and you'll win a pair of tickets to see 30 Seconds to Mars at Ascend Amphitheater this Saturday. Good luck, Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 for the game.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like, it's football. I don't mind guys setting a tone with the intensity ramped up, and we just got to understand that we can play to the edge and we can still play within the rules. And fighting is a penalty. It's usually an ejection. It hurts our team. We can't have that. I think they're all aware of that, and that's essentially what the message was in that huddle.
That was Brian Callahan yesterday after Jeffrey Simmons started fights on 2 back-to-back plays. And when it comes to the fighting in training camp, it is not the first time I've seen fighting in training camp. In fact, when you have joint practices, you usually average a fight. I mean, I watched after a joint practice with the Buccaneers was over one day, and Simmons and Leonard Fournette just started, touching each other in the face, and it led to a fight. And I mean, I remember when Tajay Sharp, sometimes get mixed up. Tajay Sharp tried to run out against the Patriots, get in a fight, and Vrabel pushed him. I mean, I've seen all kinds of stuff. So, that being said, yesterday, I disagreed with Brian Callahan's decision to not throw Jeffrey Simmons out of practice for throwing a punch. That's just my opinion. He might be doing it perfectly. He might think, hey, I'm setting the tone right now. I'm telling them, hey, no more of that. And we get a full day of practice in, and we don't throw our best defensive player out. And we, the message gets across. You might be right. I'm just saying, I believe that if you throw a punch in a game, you're out. You throw a punch in practice, you're out. That's just how I am. But the one thing that I did wonder was by not throwing Simmons out, was that A, Simmons testing the boundary, but also B, what's that mean for other players when it comes to testing the boundary as well? So today there was a moment at camp where there was a completion in a 7-on-7. Josh Wiley caught a pass, and he was popped again. They're wearing pads, popped by Kenneth Murray, and then Kenneth Murray let the trash talk fly. In fact, you all get mad at me for calling Jeffrey Simmons soft. That's what he kept calling Josh Wiley. He would not let go, just stood right there. I watched the whole thing. I watched DeAndre Hopkins kind of put his body in between Wiley and Murray, and Wiley went back to his side, and Murray went back to his side, and that was it. And to me, that is nothing other than just a little trash talk. I have no problem with it. So then I see that Paul Kaharski tweeted out, Kenneth Murray and Josh Wiley not liking each other right now. Murray offering loud and harsh review of Wiley's game, which again, I told you, he said he's soft. Murray offering a loud and harsh review of Wiley's game. Murray swung at the tight end. That comes from PK. So let me just say, I did not see Kenneth Murray take a swing at Josh Wiley. PK had to have seen it in order to have tweeted it, right? If that's the case, and again, I don't know that it is. That's not what I saw, and I was standing right there. If that's the case, that's a problem. And it's not a Kenneth Murray problem, even though Kenneth Murray is allegedly the one who did it. But it is a problem that yesterday somebody took a swing in practice, didn't get kicked out. The coach said, it'll be fine. And then somebody else takes a swing the next day. And again, I don't know if he did it or didn't do it. I'm going to go with right now that he didn't do it. And I'm not calling Paul a liar. I'm just saying I didn't see it. And I was standing right there watching it. So I'm going to assume that what I saw, or in this case, what I didn't see, didn't happen. But if Kenneth Murray did throw a punch, that's a problem. 2 days in a row. If you're throwing punches 2 days in a row in practice, that's a sign that the message didn't get through yesterday. And if the message didn't get through yesterday and you're 2 weeks on the job, that's a problem. So I don't know where this goes. Like, is this a negative opinion or a positive opinion to me, I didn't see the swing that Paul talked about, but again, I don't think Paul's making it up. Okay, TD texted me. and said Kenneth Murray did swing at Josh Wiley. It happened. They were separated and moved on. I didn't see the swing. If both Paul and TD say that it happened, then it happened. And that's not good. That's not good that yesterday the coach said, hey, we're not going to condone fighting. We understand this is football, but, we know where the line is, and we're going to. And then you got another guy starting on defense taking a swing. And would Kenneth Murray have taken the swing today if it wasn't condoned yesterday by Jeff? I don't know. All the time. The Steelers got in a big fight today. But I don't like this idea if we're going to have a punch every day. Then it's like, okay. Because again, punches in camp. I don't mind pushing and shoving. It happens all the time. I don't mind the occasional fight. It happens. But throwing a punch in training camp is the one thing these guys are told not to do. And they're told not to do it for two reasons. Number one, you get thrown out of a game if you throw a punch. Number two, Ian, if you throw a punch and you connect on somebody's helmet, what's going to happen?
Oh, could break your hand for sure.
You'll break your hand.
Yeah, not good.
So they're telling you don't do it. So, and now
And we don't want to
Curtis
go Myles Garrett on us and just rip the helmet off.
Corey Curtis say he saw the swing too.
Setting that tone on defense.
I need to get my eyes checked. What's the matter with me? Oh. What's the problem with my eyes? Well, I'd say this, it's a red flag for the coach. You can't come out and say, yeah, it's fine. I don't need to throw guys out for throwing punches. It'll be fine. And then the next guy, somebody else take a swing the next day. And then if you're Brian Callahan, what do you do? So today, this guy threw a punch, and yesterday, you didn't throw that guy out throwing a punch. Today, somebody else throws a punch. Tomorrow, somebody else throws a punch. It's like I said, this tests the honeymoon period because we know Mike Vrabel wouldn't have accepted that. Ryan in Nashville texts in and says, Vrabel's teams were disciplined for the most part. What I don't want to see is a Brian Callahan team that's undisciplined. I agree. Craig says they need some good old-fashioned run till you throw up and you're tired to fight like in high school football. Yeah, they don't do that anymore. People don't usually condone that kind of behavior in the heat in today's society. The old day of, it'll be fine, no water breaks. Those days don't exist anymore. And probably rightfully so. A couple people have asked how T'Vondre Sweat looks out there. So far, so good. He's a big guy. He's huffing and puffing there at the end of practices, but that's to be expected. He is getting himself in shape. That's fine. I still don't know if T'Vondre Sweat's going to be able to play all three downs. He's definitely playing first and second down, and he's definitely making a difference. Like, you see him out there on the field. But I don't know if he's a three-down player. That is TBD. But so far, so good. And that's all you can ask for, at least at this point. (615-737-1025) is our phone number. Okay. It is time to debate. Jared versus Joe. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. We will do it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios. It's 5 o'clock on a Wednesday. We have had a wild week of 2 days of Titans practices with the pads on. And that means it's time for Jared versus Joe, making her return to the Stillman and Company program. Ladies and gentlemen, Caroline Fenton.
And the crowd goes wild.
Yes. Congratulations on all of your success. Now that we can say that Caroline Fenton now works for Yahoo Sports, which we could not say at the time that she was last on the program. Caroline, we're all very, very proud of you. Very, very happy for you. And we love your videos.
Thank you very much. Are you making fun of my videos or are you being serious?
I'm serious.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back.
Time now for Jared versus Joe.
Jared Stillman versus Joe Rexrode. Now on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN
1025 The Game.
Jared versus Joe is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Caroline, lead us off.
Let me just say, I have had some faux freaking mo this week. Jeffrey Simmons coming out and calling Buck a no-no word at practice. Like that is some tea that is right up my alley. So that is where we begin. Jared, you go first. So Jeffrey Simmons and, Buck Rising-gate. Jeffrey Simmons apologized. He said we're moving past it. So now that Jeff has apologized, is all forgiven and is all forgotten.
All is forgiven, but it is not forgotten. I mean, last week, Rand Carthon got up there and he anointed Jeff the leader of the team, period. It used to just be the D-line. Now it's the whole team. And the way Jeff goes about his business, that's the way the team goes about their business. I can't forget that. And I can't forget the last 3 weeks Simmons has had, whether it was getting all butthurt over the people reacting to the Jamal Adams signing, whether it was him going on the other station and talking about me because I called him soft for getting all upset about the Jamal Adams thing, whether it was him going at Buck, and then even the apology today, Joe and I talked about this when it happened. It's like, you can't sit there and say, okay, I'm going to have a press conference, but now I only want to talk about football. Don't want to talk about this anymore. It's like, no. You got to talk about this today. And then tomorrow you don't have to talk about it. And so I can't get on board with what Rand Carthon was talking about his leadership. I can't get there. They need to find some new leaders. Because if Simmons is the best they got, they're in trouble. So forgiven, sure. The idea of, it was a bad thing that he did, but okay, fine, whatever. But forgiven, that's fine. Forgotten, no.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines, actually. I'm actually writing a column on this, and I hadn't really thought about it until I started, I guess, kind of sorting this out in my brain. You think about it, guys, a year ago, Jeff Simmons has, I think, basically been the same guy, throughout his time with the Titans, right? He's a heck of a player. He's the hype, emotional guy on game day. He's going to get in a fight in training camp. He's going to be vocal. But a year ago on this team, you had Kevin Byard, you had Derrick Henry, you had Ryan Tannehill. Those were the three primary leaders of this football team. And they're all gone now. So, in a year's span, he is suddenly elevated to this place. I think he has to be a leader for this team to some extent. But I do think that I think this whole thing has illustrated their need to find others. And maybe that could be a problem for this team. I think J.C. Latham someday will absolutely be one of those guys, but he's a rookie. Will Levis will be one of those guys, but he's a kid trying to prove he's good enough right now, So there is a void for sure on this team. So, I agree basically. Forgiven, yes, it was good that Simmons came out and just tried to, I would have liked to see him take more questions and have a full session and then say, okay, that's it. He tried to get right to the, I'll take some football
only
questions.
Football questions now.
Yeah, you're going to get more than football questions. And he did, and he gave a little bit more. But still, look, I was glad that he went out there and was available. So forgiven, yeah, absolutely. And he and Buck had a long talk, and everything's fine. And on that front, I'm sure. But this definitely has been a reminder that, you know, he in every aspect of leadership, like those three guys that I just mentioned, not one time in any of their tenures with the Titans, they may have had mistakes on the field, but not one time in any of their tenures with the Titans did they ever have to explain their own behavior.
I mean, I would say this. I almost feel like, Joe, if that just popped into your head from, you know, for this column that you're writing, either you are plagiarizing this radio show and the 4:00 hour. Ian, back me up.
Today?
Yes.
We did talk a little bit about the lack of, or some of the leadership that has been lost this year.
I wasn't listening, but now I'm afraid about sort of common thoughts.
Or you're starting to think like me, and that can't be a good thing for you, Joe.
No, I do not want that. I will definitely never tweet, "I stand with Buck" in all caps. I will definitely never do that.
Yeah, because you and Robbie were sitting there letting Paul be the one to have to stand up for Buck this morning. But let me just say this. I got the feeling, you know, we always talk about, I call it MGS, my guy syndrome. Like Sean Payton gets to the Broncos and he's got to have my guy, you know, so he gets rid of Russell Wilson and replace him with a guy who might actually be worse than Russell Wilson. It felt to me like Rand Carthon was never really invested in Kevin Byard, Ryan Tannehill, or Derrick Henry. And the Titans have made a pivot to be more analytic. And I wonder if, you know, nowhere on the spreadsheet does leadership go into a quantifiable slot. And so I wonder if they're like, well, you know, Byard is 0.2 of a second slower than he was. And the chart says that safeties that age at that point don't get to, as opposed to, man, this guy's like been carrying the stick for this locker room. When something bad happens, it is Byard that they put in front of a camera every time.
Yes.
And I wonder if this is a young GM and a young coach that maybe overlooked something because they've been trained for so long to look for all these tangible things that they can take to the owner and say, well, our analytics say Kenneth Murray's the best guy to go get.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I think you do. I think if they are as invested in culture as they talk about, everybody talks about culture, right? But I mean, if that really is a high priority for you, then you should be naturally finding leaders, right? But sometimes it just takes time to ascend to that on a team. Like Amani Hooker he's a leader on this team, you know, but also he's not the most vocal guy. So
would you say there's anybody, because you covered Malarkey's first full year, right?
Yep.
So I kind of feel like the team is now where they were then to a certain extent. But that team still had Jarrell Casey and Delaney Walker and like
Arakpo. They had some guys.
Yeah. Like this team doesn't have any of those guys, I think. Maybe DeAndre, but like that's it.
Yeah, it's a little light. I think DeAndre would definitely would be one. I mean, Landry is too. You know, again, Landry is kind of like Hooker, kind of naturally soft-spoken guys, but they're going to need some of those guys to take that on and be more intentional with it, I think. Because, I mean, again, Simmons is going to be a leader. I mean, whether you like it or not, I mean, that's the role he has. They've talked to him. He's talked to his teammates. He's embraced it. This has been, you know, an embarrassing episode for him and them, but he's going to be a leader.
It's been an embarrassing 2 weeks.
Well, it's two separate episodes, 2 weeks apart, right? Were you embarrassed the whole time? You had constant embarrassment for 2 weeks?
I mean, we bitched about it last week. We bitched about it on Tuesday before it happened on Wednesday, and we've bitched about it all week.
You do tend to bitch.
There is some of that. Caroline, what's next?
And let me just say, if you two start agreeing, then this debate is doomed. Jared's going to have to start believing in the cap if we need to, you know, shake some things up here.
I don't do that. I don't do that. As much as Joe said while I was on vacation that I do that, I do not do that. I do not make up opinions in order to get people riled up. I heard that, Joe.
That's scary. That's even scarier then.
Bull crap about how everything reported in The Athletic must be true, even when it contradicts itself.
Yeah. It contradicts itself when people do things different than
By
what
the
they
way,
say, 'cause
Joe.
that never happens.
By the
That
way,
never
Joe, I
happens.
think Caroline struck a nerve, by the way, on me about us agreeing. How about Diana going on the radio and bragging about killing a Saquon Barkley story so she could get him on her podcast?
This is whatever your secondhand information is. I have not.
It's
heard
not
this
secondhand. Diana said it.
I'm supposed to believe anything you tell me. All right, let's go to the next question.
All right, Joe, you go first. We kind of touched on it, but let's get into it deeper.
Wait a minute, Caroline, do you
know-
believe that Diana killed a Saquon Barkley story in order to get him on her podcast?
I didn't hear that, so I don't know if I can believe it or not. I guess I'll take your word for it.
That's not a no.
If she,
Jared's a very
did she
reliable
say
source of
it?
information. He's very
Did
reliable.
she say that verbatim?
Yes.
No, she did not.
Yes, she did. I swear
There's
to you,
no
she did.
way
I
she
I
said
will
that
find you
verbatim.
the audio. I will find it because I know where it is, because I know where I heard it. And yes.
That's along the lines of Adam Schefter calling, what was it, a GM or an agent, Mr. Editor?
Yeah. Joe
That's
does that
bad.
too.
Joe, is this true?
Wait, what?
We were talking about when
what
Adam Schefter.
what lies are you telling Jared? I do what?
Dock him some points on Jared versus Joe for not paying attention.
I will
I mean,
do the judging. I don't know if you forgot how we do things around here. I do the judging and the docking. Thank you very much. But on to the next. Joe, you go first. We kind of touched on it. Yes, Jeffrey Simmons can be a leader. We can think that he can be a leader, sure. But right now, do the Titans have a leadership problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of follows up what we've been saying. Yeah, I would definitely say that. I mean, you go through it, and like I said, Hooker and Landry, I think, are guys. They're good players. They've been here for a lot of years, so they've got to do that. Like everybody else is like pretty new. And some people I think are like, look, I think Chidobe Awuzie kind of seems like a natural leader, right? But he's new here.
Lloyd
On
Cushenberry.
offense, I think Cushenberry. And like I said, I think Latham absolutely. I think Hopkins is a good call. Hopkins, is in his own way, and I think it'll get like if Will Levis establishes himself as the player the Titans hope he is, then that'll be natural, and that's what you want. You want one of your leaders to be your quarterback. But like you said, I mean, Byard in particular, because even Derrick Henry, it took him a few years. I mean, his first few years, I would not have called him a leader at all on this team. And he eventually got there as he became a great player and all that stuff. Byard from almost day one was just like the spokesman of the Titans for many, many years. So it's just and in every aspect of there's the guy who works harder than everybody. There's the guy who breaks down film like you've never even thought about breaking down film, all that stuff, right?
Well, and to that point, I don't think there's any
himself as a player.
question what Tannehill brought when he was made the quarterback. That it was like a light switch was flipped when Tannehill became the quarterback.
Yeah, and in contrast to Mariota, I mean, he was just better at it. So yes, to answer your question, yeah, they do have a problem, but you can't. I guess to quote Clark Lee, you can't microwave it. You kind of. You hope that it's like you've got a lot of guys who get along, have a good culture, and that some obvious names emerge as the season goes on. But
here's where I disagree with that. Barry Trotz has been with the Predators for about as long as Rand Carthon's been with the Titans. And again, I don't want to put, decisions in Barry Trotz's basket because he's not a football general manager, but that serial winner thing, I think Barry Trotz would have had a very hard time letting Derrick Henry go. I think he would have had a very hard time letting Kevin Byard go for a bag of footballs. And even when it's like, well, Byard's slowing down a little bit, and it's like that kind of person, that kind of player, that matters to him a lot. I think we can all agree it's a lot more evident with what the Predators are doing than what the Titans are doing. That leadership winner kind of guy, right?
Yeah, it's hard to compare, but yeah.
I think the Titans are like, we're going to find it and develop it along the way, and the Predators are going out of their way to go get it. And so I do think that the Titans could have said, like, and I look at the backup quarterback position as an example of this. I think the Mason Rudolph signing is terrible. I mean, there was a Super Bowl winning backup quarterback that was available for them to sign, and they were not interested. And it was Joe Flacco. Like, there were winners that they could have gone out and brought in. I know they brought in Snead, but there were, some serial winners out there, and it wasn't like they ever prioritized that at all. So, yeah, you can't microwave it. You can't just say, Will Levis is the leader. And as we learned this week, you can't just say, Jeffrey Simmons is the leader, but you can go out and get leadership.
Yeah, but Trotz also didn't just go out and get like leaders who weren't good. I'm glad you brought up L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, all we ever talk about is his knees. Why isn't he a serial winner?
So Derek and I were having a conversation.
Is he not a serial winner?
I mean, he's played in the league for 4 years and he's been to 3 Super Bowls and 1 AFC title game. Derek and I were talking about this on the sideline today. As far as football team leadership, corners and receivers, like the outside guys, for some reason, they kind of are more focused on themselves. And it's kind of the middle guys, like the Ben Joneses, that are more like team leaders, just naturally. Middle linebackers, that kind of safeties, that kind of thing. And I do wonder, like, are receivers and corners, like, are they team leaders? I'm sure they can be, but there's not a whole lot of, like, think about the corner rallying the team.
I mean, Rod Woodson, I think, just comes to mind.
So in my day, Rod Woodson was a safety by the time I was watching football.
Fair.
But Rod Woodson was a bad man, boy, I tell you. All right, more Jared versus Joe continues. 615-737-1025, 1025, 106 again. Jared versus Joe is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Caroline, go.
Okay, so Brian Callahan after training camp said the negative always seems to get magnified around here. Jared, you go first. Was Brian Callahan right?
Yeah, I think he is right, but I also think that is sports in general. And I think sports fans are inherently negative, and that the number one thing that people want to know is who screwed up and why. Actually, the number one thing people want to know is what transactions are about to happen that we don't know about. And then the second thing we want to know is who screwed up and why. But I also think there is kind of this culture of, I don't want to say inevitable doom that comes with the Titans, though there is some of that. And I don't know if this is the fans' fault. I don't know if this is my fault. I don't know if this is the owner's fault. But it seems like nothing is ever good enough around here. You know, that Mike Mularkey gets to the playoffs for the first time in 10 years or whatever, and he gets fired. And then, you know, John Robinson and Mike Vrabel get the number 1 seed. They get contract extensions, and then they get fired. And it's like, I mean, so if you don't win the Super Bowl, is it never good enough around here? Now, that being said, I mean, I'd like Brian Callahan to go coach the Maple Leafs and see what that's like, or go manage the Yankees and see what that's like, or go coach the Patriots and listen to Felger and Maz and see what that's like. But at the same time, I do think the negative does get amplified around here, and I'm not exactly sure why, but I was shocked that he said it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's right. I mean, look, if we're going to take all the coverage, so take everything written in the Tennessean and everything written, take everything said, and add it all up. You guys think there's more negative than positive? I'd be surprised by that. I think.
Well, let's think about it like this, right? So, at least for me, I believe that, again, sports coverage is inherently more negative, that people like negative more. I think that's just the truth. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but I certainly like negative more. You know, I'm definitely a glass half empty guy. if there ever was one. But
so
at the same time,
are you letting me talk? Because I think
go ahead, Joe. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
I mean, I know you got I know you have a lot of blathering to do.
Go ahead, Joe. I'll let you talk.
Couple things with Callahan. One is, I mean, he's coming from Cincinnati. I don't have a sense for, you know, Cincinnati press corps, but, you know, smaller. I mean, I think we've talked about this, and I think just the larger a press corps is, the more likely that you're going to have just like more people who, I guess, get under the skin of, you know, coaches, players, and things like that. You know, everybody always talks about, oh, if you went to New York or Philly, and that's true. I mean, sometimes it's like people, it's like you would go into a press conference in one of those places that's just like a bunch of jackals just attacking you. I mean, it's not quite that, but certainly like the smaller media markets, I think, are easier to be in. I mean, the Maple Leafs, that's a great example of a tough one. But also, you know, I think where a guy like Brian Callahan comes in here and he's starting from scratch and he's starting over, and he said, like, we're doing all the things we're supposed to be doing, all that stuff, and they're working hard. And so whenever he's probably a little bit maybe surprised at times when there is negativity, but what he has to understand as a first-time head coach and get used to is just that, like, these fans have been dealt a crap product for the last couple of years, you know? And so, like, this is not a fresh start for them. I mean, it's a new coach, they're excited, but, like, people are in a worse mood. Not only have they been watching bad football, they've been watching boring football. So I think maybe people jump to the negative a little bit quicker when you're in a situation like this. And usually if you get a job, it's because things were crappy right before you.
So I've been thinking about this again. Like, I think comparatively speaking, I don't think that the negative is amplified more around here than it is in other places. Like, again, comparatively speaking, it's got to be way worse in New York and Boston, Chicago, Philly, those kind of places. You brought up the Cincinnati angle. Brian Callahan was part of an organization that won for the first time in 30 years. So they were probably a little bit more happy in Cincinnati than they are right now with this team. Here's the other thing I was just thinking about as Joe was talking, as he was blathering along there, which was, what's the one position that I have talked about by far the most on this football team?
Right
tackle.
Okay. Brian Callahan got hired, and the day after he got hired, I told him the right tackle story. They don't have a
Thrilling
right
for him,
tackle
I'm
right
sure.
now. So you bet your sweet ass I'm going to be negative about it because I told you when he got hired, go get a right tackle. And then they go through the draft process. I'm like, or free agency. I'm like, go sign Jermaine Illuminor. He's not that good. He's better than what you have. Go sign him for $7 million. They didn't sign him. Then the draft comes. They didn't draft a right tackle. So then it's like, well, what are we going to do? Well, we'll be okay with Nicholas T. Frere, a.k.a. PT. We'll be okay with PT. Then PT can't get out on the field because he's always hurt or gambling or something. You bet your ass I'm going to be mad about it. I told you the day you took the job. Go get a right tackle. Felt good.
I'm glad that any topic can turn to you screaming about the right tackle.
It feels good to get that off my chest.
If you interpret just fair, honest, and truthful coverage of the team as negative, maybe that's because the team stinks.
Oh, the team stinks. And not only that, I think there's like...
And I'm talking about like big J, capital J journalism coverage of the team.
I just think there's like also, like there's a segment, and I'm not naming names here. I don't feel like I have to name names here, that is overly positive about the Titans all the time. And I think that pushes people that have brains like us to be, whoa. Like Caroline, like when you asked L'Jarius Sneed about his knees and he got all pissy with you about it. Like, it's not like that's a secret.
Yeah, he did get pissy about it.
Caroline, what's next?
I'm glad that you bring up PT because PT has still yet to be out of practice.
0 T.
What?
Well, he's PT part-time. Now he's 0 time. Never plays.
0 time. Part-time PT. Joe, you go first. On a scale of 1 to 10, how screwed are the Titans right now at right tackle?
What, like right now today?
Yes, with pencil X starting over there at right tackle.
Yeah,
because you could say, in November, PT could be healthy.
Caroline, you've got to see how little this John Ojukwu, how little his legs are.
Like
Jared's body shaming continues. I mean,
Derek said today on the sideline,
like Aaron Brewer small.
Derek said he had wide receiver legs.
I'll take DBS's word for it.
I'll go 8. I'll go 8 right now, and
negative coverage.
I know. I reserve, the right to change that if Petit Frere shows up this weekend. All of a sudden he looks good and it's clear he's the guy, but they don't have an answer at this point. And they have a lot of bodies, but I don't see an answer. So, like, honestly, Jared's previous suggestion, which of course he'll be wrong about, but whenever he said this in the spring about Radens being the right tackle, that's not going to be the case. But at some point, maybe that does have to get looked at because they've been, throwing some different guys in there, and it's just not looking good. Ojukwu is he's a guy, a depth guy, but he's not someone you want starting at right tackle. So at this very moment, without having seen Petit Frere in a long time, yeah, I'll go 8.
So I'm a little torn on this. Obviously, right tackle is a position that's near and dear to my heart. I'm going to go 7.
Ooh.
I'm going to go 7. And
After
3
all this
is because of Bill Callahan. So I don't know that Bill Callahan is, in fact, Jesus, but he might be. And he might be able to turn water to wine. Now, Rich Gannon said to me at the Super Bowl that Barry Sims was an offensive lineman that they had with the Raiders that came from the World Football League, and literally day by day, Bill Callahan turned him into a legit starting tackle in the NFL. The Browns went through about 19 tackles last year after both Jack Conklin and Jedrick Wills got hurt. And then more tackles got hurt. And so I got to believe Bill Callahan's brought two guys with him from Cleveland, Leroy Watson and Jaron Christian. And I'm thinking that Bill knows in his heart that at the end of the day, if he's got to play one of them there, he can. And I think they'll be scouring the waiver wire. They'll be looking for something. And I think there might be. So Bill Callahan gets 3. If Bill Callahan was not the offensive line coach of this team, it'd be a 50. But I got to give Bill Callahan, we got to give Bill Callahan, he's the only guy who for sure gets the benefit of the doubt because he does have the resume. So I'll go 7 just to give 3 to Bill.
What a sunshine blower.
I mean, it feels
Seriously.
that way. It feels that way. I mean, I've sat there the day guys said, go get a right tackle. They didn't go get a right tackle. Oh, no, it'll be fine. Caroline, what season was it?
Everything's going to be fine, season.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. PT's not practicing during OTs. It'll be fine. Now it's not fine. Now they've got John Ojukwu and his pencil legs out there at right tackle. And by the way, today he was not my problem. The right guard was my problem today. But I got to believe that Bill Callahan's the guru. Everybody in the sport says he's the guru. Everybody outside the sport says he's the guru. And we do have to give some credence to what Cleveland did last year at tackle with all the injuries that they had. So as hard as it is to let go of the wheel and let Bill Callahan take it, he is the one guy who I think has the resume that's Bill. Caroline, who wins this week?
It could change, but see, the question was right now. So you again answered a question incorrectly.
That's okay. Bill will figure it out.
Caroline perceives that it's up to her. It's her
right now, Bill's the coach. And right now, Bill's resume says Bill can do it. If they go out there this year, because I cannot tell you guys the amount of complaining I've done about the offensive line over this entire offseason that has been then coupled by the text line saying, Bill Callahan will fix it. Jared, Vrabel, and Jason Hodling were idiots. Bill Callahan will fix it. I mean, I think you guys kind of have an idea, but multiply that by 5, and that's what I got. So if you said right now, I agree with the fans that Bill Callahan does, he does earn a little grace. But if Bill doesn't get this line figured out, next year we won't sit there and say, Bill will get it figured out if Bill doesn't get it figured out this year. So right now, Bill gets the grace. But next year or in the future, Bill might not get the grace, Joe.
I'm sure he won't if it does. Look, I think he's going to end up doing good things with this offensive line. So, like Cleveland last year, it was actually pretty remarkable. But at this moment, he's also not Gandalf the Wizard. I mean, sometimes you don't have a player at a position.
I mean, that's what he is supposed to be. Like, he is legitimately supposed to be King Midas. Like, that's what the hype is.
Yeah, but I mean, even
Napoleon said that.
but right, but just like Brian Callahan said at the combine, hey, yeah, good coach. Coaching matters. You know what matters more? Talent. All these guys are ultimately the Jimmies and Joes always win, Jared.
I know, but I watch the Titans get to the AFC title game with Gennaro DiNapoli as a starting center because Mike Munchak developed him into something. And so there has to be some leeway for a good offensive line coach, and the Titans have one. And I think Bill deserves a bit of the doubt. Caroline, who wins?
Jared, Titans, Bobo, Stillman.
I know. Joe's more worried about right tackle than I am.
You guys did agree on a lot today. There's some arguing, but I think we all agree at the end of the day with the main points. So Joe wins this week because right tackle, Titans don't have a right tackle, Jared.
Joe thinks PT can play right tackle for them.
But he's more concerned about it than you are.
But again,
right tackle?
Joe thinks they have a right tackle because he thinks PT is a right tackle because he thinks PT was good as a rookie, which he was not.
Well, PT isn't on the field.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. You said he was good as a rookie.
I said he had good games as a rookie. He had bad games too, Jared.
Way too many bad games. So I'm
I
glad
heard
Tough,
Joe
man.
say
You
that
need to get a little tougher on this team.
he thought that PT should have been NFL MVP his rookie year. I heard him say that.
I did hear that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
that's
Joe.
why we don't
Diana
need to.
Rossini
Yeah, we
would
need
have
to be
reported it,
very
but she had
careful.
another
Yeah.
story. She was trying to get him on her podcast, but make of that what you will. Caroline, good to talk to you again. Joe, thank you. We continue on. 615-737-1025. And I do have a question now. Now that I lost Jared versus Joe over the right tackle position,
Tell the story.
now that I've lost it, will you guys out there admit that this is a problem? We'll get to it next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106 for the game.
I know it's early, but what is maybe your thought process on the right side, what you've seen so far, and how quickly you'd like to have guys claim some jobs?
Yeah, so Jim, so what we're doing is we're mixing and matching. We're rotating all the racks. So we're getting John a lot of reps. For instance, we moved the JD over there, Duncan over there today. We've had reps, with everybody. So everybody's gotten some exposure, over on that right side. So, and also the left. So let's not dismiss the fact that the swing tackle is just as important as the starter. So we're trying to navigate all that work, and try to really, get a clear evaluation, not only for the starters, but really important for the backup position, because as we know, the backups become starters.
The guru, Bill Callahan, talking about the right side of the offensive line, saying, hey, we're working through everything. And let me say that comments like that actually give me confidence. Now, I just lost Jared versus Joe because Joe gave the fear at right tackle on a 10 scale an 8. I gave it a 7. And I said the 3 I have to go with is for Bill Callahan. Bill Callahan, we have to, as if Mike Vrabel was the coach and one of his bozos was the offensive line coach, if that was going on right now, it'd be 10. And I'd be yelling and screaming and saying, oh my God. When I see John Ojukwu tiny little legs out there at right tackle, all I do is I hear the old man from up above saying, we don't have a right tackle every time. But then when Bill Callahan sits there and says, well, Jim, here's how we're walking through working on the right side, it sounds like somebody that's confident, that's done it before, that knows what they're talking about. It's like taking your car to the mechanic and the mechanic saying, well, we've got to take the muffler over here and then move it inside with the spark plugs there. Like, again, I can't reply to it. I don't even know what it is. But it's like, doctor, can you fix it? And this is the best doctor in the world, supposedly, to fix it. And he doesn't seem stressed out about it. I am very stressed out. And he didn't seem stressed out about it. I mean, I got to believe that if Bill Callahan was beating down the door of Ran Carthon and Brian Callahan and Chad Brinker saying, I need a right tackle, they would have been in on Illuminor instead of one of the corners, one of the receivers, something like they would have been in on a right tackle. But I wonder if Bill watched enough film and said, no, we'll be okay. Well, we'll be fine. I'll get it figured out. And I have to give Bill the grace that he's going to be able to do it. And then if he bombs, then I'll never shut up about it. Chris in Knoxville says it's been a problem for 5 years already, a must-win for Bill Callahan. Nah, it's been a problem since 2021. That's 3 years. Dennis Kelly, and David Quessenberry both, they were fine. Wasn't good, but they were fine. Matt says, if the Titans don't sign or trade for a legitimate right tackle, the season is over before it starts, as far as I'm concerned. These bums on the roster are going to and will get hurt. And when that happens, the season will be over. Crazy how smart people have always been around football their entire lives, can't identify what a good offensive lineman is. It blows my mind. That's Matt in White House. Matt, I would agree with you if it was Rand, Chad, and Brian that were the only decision makers on this. I can't with Bill in the mix. Got to think Bill will do something. One texter says, I feel like you got to get that right tackle thing off your chest every day, and then you say a 7. That is dumb. Again, I played the cut. Ryan Harris, the former Super Bowl offensive lineman, said the problem in the league with offensive lines is that the offensive line coaches are bad. Well, you've got a good line coach. But yes. I am worried. But I got to give Bill some leeway. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Stillman & Company, 1025, 106 for the game.
You seem very angry with us in general lately. What's the root of that? What can we do?
I just said, that's not me. We're going to move forward from that. I'm ready to focus on football. I just want to win. Like I said, I'm not with all the social media stuff. I got a text message even from a PR lady, just even delete social media while I'm in camp. Because like I said, I don't want to get the text message. Told my family, don't send it to me no more. None of that. But like I said, I'm not angry at you guys. I don't have nothing against you guys. You guys have a job. I have a job. We know you guys going to critique us. I mean, we're not going to like it. And like I told earlier, we also have a right to speak our opinion as well, just like you guys. So I'm not angry with no one. Like I said, some of the stuff I just don't like what some of the stuff be said. That's my opinion. So like I said, I'm just ready to move on from that. Like I said, yesterday is unacceptable, and we came back to practice today. Had a great day.
In general, do you need to pay less attention to social media?
I'm focused on football.
That was Jeffrey Simmons today in his mea culpa press conference which, again, I give him credit for doing. You know, I mean, he went viral yesterday. It was a total embarrassment. He embarrassed the team, embarrassed the organization, embarrassed himself, and it, you know, was the right thing to do. But that answer right there triggered me a little bit. I love how, again, Paul asks him the question, you seem to have been kind of upset with us lately. And Simmons says, well, I'm just trying to move on, focus on football. And then in between every time he said, I'm just trying to move on and focus on football, he gives a separate thought, right? Like, I told my family, don't even send me this stuff on social media anymore. So now we know it was the family that must have seen the social media stuff that must have gotten him mad yesterday. Again, that's not really taking responsibility. That's, well, I told my family don't send it because they sent it to me. It's their fault. But what bothered me was he said right there, like, hey, you guys have a job to do to critique us. We get it. We're not going to like it. But it's like I said, you know, and I forget the exact wording he used right there, but it was something along the lines of like, we should be able to push back or talk about those things if we don't agree with them. I agree. And yet, in that moment, Ian, if you could play that again, Paul is giving him the opportunity to say what you don't. What are you mad about?
You seem very angry with us in general lately. What's the root of that? What can we do?
That's not.
That's it. What are you mad about? Hey, we as players deserve the right to be able to push back. Yes, say it. Last week, I asked him, I said, you sent out on Twitter, I forget exactly what I said, something along the lines of, you had criticism of us or something like that, something about the media. And he's like, I'm moving past it. I'm
not
focused
talking
on
about
football.
that.
Yeah. Yesterday, Buck in the video is hilarious. Buck's like, sit down. You want to talk about it? Sit down. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. So stop bitching about how you know, hey, we as players deserve the opportunity to push back. We're giving it to you. Do it. If you want to say what you're mad about, say it. Woo. Unbelievable. I mean, we'll see where this goes. And somebody texted in the text line and said, move on to a different topic tomorrow. I don't know what the topic will be tomorrow. Tomorrow, there's always a new story. But right now, this is the story. And it's something. I mean, I will tell you right now, this has been 2 days in pads this week. It has been something. That's it for us. We're out of here. Chase and Big Joe from training camp. That replays next. Stillman and Company. We'll see everybody tomorrow at 2.